Hello everyone, it's Jamal Thomas. Welcome to the Progressive Soapbox. I don't mean to laugh. This is not funny. I don't mean to laugh. I have a lot of stuff going in my head at once. It's making me somewhat funny. Make sure I'm up. My wife allowed the dog to come into the room. And because she allowed the dog to come into the room, and I hate it when she does it, Bo is like 70, 80 pounds, and he has no concept of space. Like, he has no concept of I'm stepping on somebody's foot, or I'm walking into something, or I am walking into the light that's connected to the television, and that rips everything down and breaks my television and breaks my setup. So this one is going to be a little bit weird today because I don't have my back and forth where I could see both the live chat and everything else. So I'm going to have to check the chat at some point. What I would like to talk about, let me make sure my sound is up. This is on the fly, so I'll try to be concise, but somewhat of a bombshell news. Bombshell news. I'm being accosted by some people on Twitter who are not rap-tight in the least. Who are not rap-tight in the least. I'm not going to go into it because it's insane. But as in being accosted in this way and treated poorly. I was being snarky, but I started being snarky after the fact. Been treated somewhat poorly. Garden Gnome is joking me at this point. And as he's joking me at this point, because he's looking at this and is like, oh my god, this is an utterly insane scenario. It's like, how does a person deal with insane people? And what does it look like from an outsider when they're looking at somebody, you know, dealing with somebody rational, dealing with somebody insane? But he's like, dude, take a look at this. And what he showed me, rescuing me from this level of insanity, is like throwing a life preserver to a drowning guy, is a document from Justice Democrats. And Justice Democrats, for all intents and purposes, firing Cenk Ugyur and Dave Kohler, the same Cenk Ugyur from TYT, the same Cenk Ugyur that started TYT, because of sexist and weird derogatory tweets. Blog posts that he wrote several years ago. I have to be honest. Some people can be a little touchy about stuff, and all intents and purposes, I usually like people to speak their piece. I'm not necessarily offended by a lot of this stuff, and ultimately, it's like, you know, I want you to be a human being, and I want you to have your conversation. So I went into this thinking to myself, how bad could they be? It's like, what? They called themselves the Young Turks. The Young Turks, fucking genocide. So how, you know, it's like, how bad can it be? I'm reading the tweets, and I'm reading his blog post. I'm like, oh man, you wrote that aloud. Like, I could see if you're having a conversation with your friend. Let's say your boys are over, and you guys are just talking, and you're being guys, and just kind of locker room talking, stuff like that. I can kind of see that. But this is a little weird and strange. So I'm gonna read a few of it because it is a little strange. I gotta admit, I read it and you cringe at some of it. And like I said, usually I don't necessarily care. I think like if you're making jokes and this type of stuff, like Sam Cedar making a joke, and it was like, I thought the joke was fine. I thought some people may look at it and be aghast at the way he framed the joke. But, you know, for all intents and purposes, anybody looking at it being honest understood he was being sarcastic. This doesn't look like sarcasm. This looks, this looks grisly. But for all intents and purposes, they cut him loose. Justice Democrats reacted immediately to this. Their statement, let's see. I'll just show you that statement, and I'll read the article itself in addition to some of the items. There are going to be some people who are going to have a field day with this and think this is absolutely awesome. I have to be honest. I have no grudges with anybody in this process. I was talking to someone else. I was like, I'm siloed from this. I try to keep myself distinct in a way because I don't necessarily want those things adversely affect my judgment. So I don't necessarily have any bias against Uyghur or JD or any of this stuff. I've bitched about JD because I don't necessarily like the connection between this idea of political apparatus and the thing, and it seems a little dicey to me. My point to this is, I'm giving the story just kind of way as the story is coming out. It's not a chest thump. It's not anything else. It's just, this is the news. This is what's taking place. And whatever people think of TYT and everything else, it's unchallenged. It's unequivocal that for the most part, for this idea of lefty media, particularly if you're talking about for the web, it's the largest. Okay, why am I continuously showing that? It's the largest lefty online news show. Regardless you want to think about it, ultimately that is true. They're the largest lefty news show. The thing with Jordan, when that broke, and you know, Jordan, what, maybe 200,000 subscribers, it was all over lefty media. This certainly goes above that. So it is definitely a story that should be reported. And yeah, it's a little weird. So let's read the thing. The weird part, I think, is the part that he published it, like he put it out. At some point he tried to delete it, but he's like, I must show the world this. I must tell the world these things. These are my thoughts. I must tell the world these thoughts. So just as Democrats said, we are deeply disturbed by recent news regarding Cenk Ugyur and Dave Kohler. Their language and conduct is horrifying and does not reflect the values of Justice Democrats. We will be hypocrites to not act immediately and ask for their resignation. Here's our official statement. I'm going to put the statement at the bottom, but ultimately the statement is, we're aghast by this. We don't like this. This is over the top. We asked for their resignation, and they said yes. Essentially, we had a pretty quick investigation. Uyghur said, yes, I did write that, and they got rid of him. He asked for their resignation. So I want to read some of these, because you need context. Context is important. So this is the Daily Wire. I actually hit the story first in The Hill, but The Hill didn't necessarily give all of the information in regards to the tweets themselves. I want to see the tweets themselves. Don't tell me that they're derogatory. Well, I don't want your opinion, man. I want to actually see them. You know, I want to make the determination myself. How do I personally feel about this, and do I think this is derogatory? Look, you're in politics, and as you're in politics, this is not one of those things where you're just talking to your buddies. Anything that's going to be found is going to be used against you as a political tool of sorts. You're going to get hit over the head. Now, just because you're getting hit over the head doesn't necessarily mean you didn't give them the stick to hit you over the head. And like I said, I have to admit, this is a little weird. It's a little weird. Not so much of, you know, these are just my thoughts. Okay, well, these are just your thoughts. Publishing them, yeah, that was a poor choice. That was an immensely poor choice. Yeah, Jesus Christ. All right, so this is a Daily Wire. The Young Turks' Cenk Uygur called out for twisted blog posts about women, blames conservatism. And they have this little blurb. Turns out there were 3 teenage girls, whores in training, literally looking for boys to pick them up. Oh, man, that's brutal. That's brutal. You're calling teenagers whores in training. Yeah, man, that's brutal. Recently uncovered blog posts from Cenk Uygur, who is the creator of the host Young Turks, reveal multiple disparaging and sexist remarks about women, including referring to women as genetically flawed. Uygur, who recently came under fire for blaming Christians for the Holocaust, wrote perverse blog posts in the early 2000s, which the Rap recently uncovered hidden in online archives. They went looking for him. That's amazing. Cenk Uygur apologized for his writing the blog post in an interview with the Rap, claiming that the writings do not represent who he is today. And look, Uygur has said that. We got to be fair to him. He has said that he started off as a conservative and then at some point became somewhat of a lefty, having this character arc with the Iraq War. Yeah, but yeah, okay, fair enough. I mean, I'm just saying he did have this kind of character arc. The stuff I wrote back then was really insensitive and ignorant, Uygur told the Rap. If you read it today, what I wrote 18 years ago and you're offended by it, you're 100% right. And anyone who's subjected to that material, I apologize. And I deeply regret having written that stuff when I was a different guy. I had not matured. And I was still a conservative who thought that stuff was politically incorrect and edgy, he said. When you read it now, it looks really, honestly, ugly. It was very uncomfortable to read. Yeah, this is very uncomfortable to read. I have to be honest. I agree. Like I said, when I looked at this, my first thought was, how bad can it be? How bad can it be? But by the same token, it has to be pretty bad if Justice Democrats fires him. Like, we need your resignation right now at this very moment. So, let's take a look at these. Let's see. Give me 1 second. My TV is bashed up, so I don't necessarily have my normal setup. Come on, come on, come on, come on, come on. Come on. Alright. So let's flip to this. Oh, that's great. That's great. Have a commercial. Alright. So let's see. Here we are. The improbable breasts in Miami are only matched by the improbable butts. This makes Los Angeles look real Miami. Hashtag real Miami. That was 2013. So they're trying to make this, they're trying to hit him in the knees. I mean, Daily Wire is a conservative thing. They're trying to make this point of impeaching his testimony. They're trying to say, well, look, he's saying, I wrote these things 18 years ago. And they're pulling up tweets from 2013. The improbable breasts in Miami are only matched by the improbable butts. This makes Los Angeles look real. Hashtag Miami. Just when I think Miami is all done, it pulls me back in. The women on this island are outrageously, almost unacceptably hot. Hashtag Miami. I mean, come on. Those are different. Like, what I mean is there's some of the other tweets or some of the other blog posts are somewhat intense. The tweets themselves are, yeah, he tweeted it, but I mean, come on, let's be honest. Those are, for the most part, guys being guys on that one. I'm more slightly disturbed by the writings, the blog posts. So let's go to the blog posts, because ultimately I don't think he was fired for the tweets. I think he was fired for the blog posts. And I should say resign. I mean, ultimately they fire him. We want your resignation. Alright, so on women being genetically flawed for not wanting to have enough sex. It seems like there's a sea of tits here, and I'm drinking in my tiny droplets. I want to dive into the whole goddamn ocean. Obviously, the genes of women are flawed. They're poorly designed creatures who do not want to have sex nearly as often as needed for the human race to get along peaceably and fruitfully. His warning to women that something sexual needs to happen by the 3rd date and an orgasm on the 5th. Oh, that's, yeah. Women, ignore these at your peril. Rule 1. There must be some serious making out by the 3rd date. If I haven't felt your tits by then, things are not about to last much longer. In fact, if you don't get back on track by the 4th date, you're done. Rule 2. There must be an orgasm by the 5th date. He doesn't really specify whose. And there's something, I didn't know Cenk Ugyur had it like that, where he could be like, if I don't get action by date number 3, you're done. And it's like she's just broken up and destroyed by the whole process. This was on, let's see, one of the best nights of my life, in which he kissed almost 24 women and felt countless breasts. I had one, Jesus Christ. I had one of the best nights of my life at Mardi Gras. I kissed over 23 different women and saw and felt countless breasts. and was in a wonderful drunken stupor thanks to my friend Jack Daniels whiskey. Shout out to Jack Daniels whiskey. Let's keep going. Apparently there are more. On chatting up a teenage girl he described as whores in training while on a road trip with now senior VP of the Young Turks, Dave Kohler. Dave Kohler was also cut loose. In one Pennsylvania town, we stopped for gas, and while Cenk filled up, I went and talked to these 3 girls who were walking down the road nearby. Turns out there were 3 teenage girls, whores in training, literally looking for boys to pick them up. They were around 14 and 16, and in a few more years would be pretty damn good looking. Even if you're a conservative, whores in training is, oh man, that's a tough one. Like, I have to be honest, that's the worst of the bunch. Like, even if you're a conservative, even if you're saying, I am a hardcore, full-on, full Trumper Republican, whatever you want to call yourself, alt-right, whatever. Looking at 3 random teenage kids, and your thought is, these are whores in training, is disturbing. That's disturbing, man. Yeah, that's disturbing. At least they did make the caveat that in a few years they'll be pretty damn hot. They're trying to make this thing of saying, no, we're not looking at the teenagers. But you were looking at the teenagers because you started thinking from the context of sex the moment that you were looking at the teenagers. If you're going to call them whores in training, I guess that's my point. That's just a weird place to jump to. That's all. It's like your mind was already in a particular place for you to get to that spot. In early December, Ugyur defended MSNBC. Oh, jeez Christ. Okay, now they're going to put a knife in him. Defended MSNBC contributor Sam Seder after old tweets was discovered and went viral on social media that they joked about his daughter being raped, and they're fucking lying. It was being sarcastic. This is what I mean. This right-wing fucking media. You already had a knife in the guy. I mean, for the most part, you had a shiv in the guy. You had this guy calling just regular teenage girls whores in training. Did you really need to bring Sam Seder into this also? Particularly when Sam Seder's joke was pure sarcasm. And it is a massive jump of the shark and being massively disingenuous to go with this idea that Sam Seder's joke is in any way similar to the shit that's above. So come on, those things are different. Be honest. Sam Seder's now deleted tweet. Don't care, Roman Polanski. Don't care in response to Roman Polanski, but if my daughter is ever raped, it's done by an older, truly talented man with a great sense of mise-en-scene. Either you're insane to believe that Sam Seder actually wants his daughter to be raped, or you can full well see that Sam Seder is, you can say crudely joking in this way of being sarcastic, but it's still a joke and it's still sarcasm, and anybody who's looking at that and is honest can actually see the context of the joke. Whores in training, there's no context to that joke. Like, yeah, that looks bad. That looks bad. That looks extraordinarily bad. The Daily Mail is showing the thing above the impeachment testimony. They're trying to say, well, look, if you're trying to say that you're a fundamentally different guy and you're not that same person, then in 2013 you were writing about improbable breasts and improbable butts. Tweeting about improbable butts. That is an interesting turn of a phrase. Improbable butts. Improbable butts. So, improbable butts. It's fucking amazing. So, yes, he's been asked to step down. And it essentially gave their resignation. So, him and Dave Kohler are no longer associated with Justice Democrats. Justice Democrats apparently were pretty proud of themselves for cutting them loose. I imagine Cal is still with it. Until somebody finds something where Cal was flipping out saying some insane stuff. I suppose Cal is still with the organization. But right now, as it stands, the organization that Cenk Ugyur and Cal Kalinske started, Cal is apparently the only one with it. Cenk Ugyur has bitten the dust, and so have Dave Kohler. So, that's amazing. That is mind-blowing. Like I said, man, I don't take I don't have a grudge against TYT. I don't like the choice that they made when they went for Hillary Clinton. So I have this kind of weird, I know what it is. It feels like there's a discontinuity with regards to rhetoric versus action, and I don't like it. So if you're telling me we're gonna take on the establishment and we're gonna punch Democrats in the face, you know, as we take over this apparatus and all this other stuff, and then later on you're telling me I need you to vote for Hillary Clinton, and you're having this 15-minute rant where you're trying to get into people's ass to get them motivated to vote for Hillary Clinton and browbeating them for not wanting to vote for Hillary Clinton, as you get them terrified and hysterical. It's like, certainly there's a disconnect between those two things. You can't have it both ways. And I honestly suspect that in a situation of saying, you know, you're stuck with the worst case scenario, you pushed your audience to try to vote for that woman, even though your audience was dead set against voting for that woman. And then she lost. So to a certain faction, you've lost a certain amount of credibility in addition to picking the wrong candidate. And yes, they were for Sanders, so don't misunderstand me. I'm just saying there's no such thing as a bloodless coup. And if these guys are talking about taking on the establishment and you know, vote Hillary, it's like, what? Yeah, this is where I get off. This is where I get off. It's like, yeah, ding, ding, I'm done. This is where I get off. Like, it just doesn't connect. Like, if you're going to say that this is what we are and you're going to go that route, you got to go that route. You can't necessarily just turn around, get terrified, and then vote for Hillary Clinton. This is, in all intents and purposes, Cenk Uyyur's grab him by the pussy video. This is literally what this is. Like, in the same way that they caught Trump on video X number of years ago saying grab him by the pussy and all this other stuff, and TYT, you know, ran that clip, joked them, and he should have been joked for it. It's a fucking ridiculous thing to say. He should have been joked for it. But come on. Man, if this is not the same thing, I don't know what is. Like, the improbable butts thing, I gotta be honest, that one doesn't bother me all that much. That's a guy being a guy. But I don't know a defense for the whores in training thing. There's no defense for that. Even if you're a right-winger, like, I could see somebody saying, look, I'm just trying to be edgy. I'm a right-winger, and right-wingers do shit like that. So that doesn't necessarily shock me. Like, you know, lefties always say right-wingers are racist. We say it from the perspective of we're looking at these guys doing something, and it seems that, you know, it's like they don't necessarily want to be, how can I say this, immensely insensitive and completely unempathetic. Meaning, I want to be able to say what I want to say. I don't give a shit about anybody else. You guys are snowflakes, etc., etc. It's like this idea of just taking other people's feelings into account is somehow a bad thing. But that's, come on, that's different. Like, even being a right-winger, the whores in training thing is just rough. That's rough. Like, that's rough to read, rough to hear. Particularly when you realize it's like, you're looking at teenagers, and in looking at teenagers, you jump to sex. It's like, why are you jumping to sex? Like, I understand you have this saving grace at the end of saying, you know, they'll be hot later on, but you're jumping to sex right off the bat, saying that these teenage girls are going to be whores in training, and that they're out looking to pick up a guy. It's like they'll be pretty damn good looking later on. Yeah, I'm just thinking later on. Even though I've just kind of made this association between these teenagers and whores in training. Yeah, guys, I'll put the link at the bottom. Cenk Uyyur's grabbing by the pussy video. That's effectively what it is. So, alright, let's see. This is just a report, so this is not anything, like there's no, I will say this though, there are going to be some people chest thumping like nobody's business. It's going to be really chest thumping. Nicholas Reynolds, opposition research. This is the far left cannibalizing itself once again. They can't help themselves unless they adhere to the new way of the wind is blowing every 5 minutes and voted off the island. Nicholas Reynolds, I agree with you. I actually agree with you on this. But this is not the left. The Daily Mail is not a left magazine. At least I don't think it is. It's a right-wing conservative magazine. Those guys probably went looking for it. Yeah, it probably was opposition research. It even occurred to me that, is this one of those things where it's a Democratic Party opposition research? Meaning you have an organization that's running the challenge. Well, Democratic Party, pushing them to the left. Regardless of what you want to think of the Justice Democrats, ultimately that's what they're trying to do, push the party to the left. And whether or not they consider them an overt threat or not, would somebody go and try to find something in order to hit him in the knees with? Maybe. Yeah, why not? Why not? These guys are out there sandbagging Jill Stein on the left. Why would I not? Put it this way, I wouldn't necessarily be surprised if there was this kind of opposition research to neutralize opponents of what the Democratic Party considers attacks on its right, on its left. So yes, they're going to red bait. They're going to do the Russia thing, trying to kind of kick up this new Cold War. That's not working. Nobody's buying the Russia thing with the exception of Democrats. And they haven't necessarily been able to whip up this fervor in the same way that they could during the McCarthy time. But if you wanted to neutralize things that you consider to be a threat, yeah, why not? I mean, particularly when you have something out there where one of these guys are calling himself a lefty, is joking Donald Trump about a grab him by the pussy video, and has his own version of the grab him by the pussy video where he's calling women whores in training. It's like, shit, man. Yeah, that's rough. That's rough. But look, just because it's rough and just because he wrote it doesn't necessarily mean that it wasn't opposition research with, you know, political elements trying to neutralize him. So yeah. Jamal, you need a pop-up blocker. I know, fuzzhead. Yeah, I know. Gardner, Cenk excuses were pathetic and his apology lasted 2 minutes max. He then went on, read a flattering tweet from a fan that begged him for more money. Oh man, that's brutal. That's brutal. Oh man, that's brutal. I mean, but come on, Gardner. You know, there would have been no apology that you would have accepted from Cenk Ugyur. And I have to admit, you shouldn't have asked for money after that. You shouldn't have asked for money. That of all the times to ask for money, that is not one of them. That is not one of them. Who runs Justice Democrats? I don't know. Putin paid Hillary. Putin paid Hillary. I don't know. It sounds like there was some kind of board that he resigned from the board. So the Wheeler, Brian Tan and Knight, not when you are involved in politics. Yeah, it's. I would not be shocked if this was opposition research. He did write it, so fair enough. But would I be, put it this way, would I be blown away if it came out that this information was uncovered by some Democratic operative and that particular operative passed that information on to some kind of right-wing magazine in order to hit him in the knees with it? Would not be shocked in the least. Why wouldn't they? I mean, understand what's taking place. The Democratic Party, for the first time in a very long time, has attacks that's coming from its left. You have the Green Party, but the Green Party is not that much of a threat. You have Democratic Socialists of America. You have Our Revolution. You have Brand New Congress. And you have Justice Democrats. Justice Democrats has associated itself with Brand New Congress. If you can take out one of the organizations, like TART, like smear it pretty bad, like having the founder of that organization talking about whores in training, that type of stuff, does it tar the candidate? It doesn't look good. I mean, ultimately, you as a candidate want to have a conversation, and the conversation that the media comes up with, what do you think about Cenk Ugyur, the guy who started the Justice Democrats, the banner that you yourselves are running under? He said about raping kids. You know, this type of stuff. It's like, oh, dude. Yeah. Yeah. Cal doesn't do interviews, though. Maybe he would do one now. Winkle the Bernie bro. That would be interesting. I think Gardner mentioned that Cal started it and Cenk kind of pushed him out the way. Yeah. Danny Ocean. Yo, what the fuck is going on? well, Cenk Ugyur has been pushed out of Justice Democrats. That's what's going on. Tim Black would do interviews, so can Jimmy Dore. Would do the interviews, so can Jimmy Dore. Tim Nichols. JT always gives it up on the first date. D. Martin. Yeah, I'm a bit of a whore, man. I'm live and let live. Live and let live. Yeah, I'm not so prude, but I don't have these, I look at this stuff as just cultural. It's not necessarily real. People can come up with any kind of habits that they want in this regard. But there are certain cultural norms. And if you're in politics, this is a no-no. Let's see. Tim Nichols. Justice Democrats are everyday progressives you can meet walking down the street, also known as everyday folks who are sick of the establishment. Tim Nichols, yeah, I agree. I think the issue people have, though, has to do with TYT itself. I think it's this thing of the affiliation with TYT. I think that's the issue. The question becomes, are people okay now with Justice Democrats now that Cenk Ugyur has left Justice Democrats? Like, now that he has nothing to do with the organization because he's been forced to resign out of some kind of, you know, this what do you want to call it? I don't know the adjective for it. Oh man, I can't think of the word for it. This unsavory or this undignified and unexpected exit from the organization that he helped start. Does it make them more palatable? Like, is it possible that in a weird and strange way that Ugyur not having anything with the organization actually helps the organization? That would be mind-blowing. But is that possible? I mean, keep in mind, if the issue that people were having with Justice Democrats is TYT, and that's not everybody, you're just talking about the far left. But if that's their issue, and if it's, well, we're not getting behind Justice Democrats because I don't want anything to do with TYT, and TYT is essentially milking their public, does it make Justice Democrats more palatable now that these guys are out of the mix? That's a question. I'm curious. Inquiring minds want to know, particularly this one. I'm starting my own group, Honor Democrats. I accept money via PayPal and Western Union. Nicholas Reynolds. Brian Tan, Cedar was being joking and making fun of a child rapist. No. In fact, it was the opposite of that. Like, come on, be honest. Those right-wing magazines were just trying to hit these guys in the knees. They're political hatchet, man. They don't give two shits about this. From their standpoint, they feign outrage because they just want to take these guys off the playing field. So, you know, be aware, understand the situation to which you're presented with. Just because they don't necessarily want to take them off the playing field, and just because they don't necessarily have any real beliefs in this, doesn't necessarily mean that the wider public won't. The entire reason that they put this out in the public in this way is because they want to tar them. They understand it's going to have a certain impact. And it does. I mean, it's like you're reading, you're like, oh, you cringe. You cringe. Some of the stuff is like, okay, that looks bad, but ultimately, you know, if guys are being honest, when there are a bunch of guys around, they're drinking or something like that, they're saying weird shit. I don't know how many of those guys says, I need the world to understand my thoughts. I've been feeling boobs and butts. It's like, I don't know, that's a weird thing of needing to express. Like, of all the things that a person needs to express, is this one of those things that you need to express? Apparently, Cenk Ugyur thought so. So, yes, he put it out in the internet, he put it into the ether and says, these are my thoughts. But it looks bad. It does look bad. It does look bad. But I just want to make a point. There's a fundamental difference between Sam Cedar making a joke about Polanski, saying that Polanski should be locked up, which was the entire context and the point of that joke, and then mangling that, feigning outrage, trying to get the guy fired from his job, and MSNBC being so weak that they cave into it, apparently for a little bit, and then change their mind. To this is a bit different. Those are a bit different. I guess the other question is there such thing as redemption? Like, so I understand, from the standpoint of Justice Democrats, the last thing they want to touch is that. Like, you have all of these women screaming out, "Me too." And women are getting their particular light in the sun, essentially saying, these are the things that we've had to deal with being injected into this society. Like understand, a lot of this stuff has to do with power differentials. You're in a situation, you're barely making ends meet. You may be a mom, you may be a single mom, you may be one paycheck in a 2-paycheck family, but I'm just making this point that you're barely making ends meet, or you're just making ends meet. And look, even in some cases where people are making ends meet, the pressure is even more so for them to not say anything. There's always doubt. Like, it's always this thing of what is going to be the repercussions of me saying anything about this particular thing. Meaning, if I come out and I say, yes, this particular person touched me inappropriately, does that mean I don't get a job again? Does it mean I'm looked at as a tattletale? Will the society back me up on this? Will the company back me up on this? Those things are doubts. Just as a human being, you're going to have those doubts. At some point, the dam breaks and people come out, and one person comes out after the next, and they feel we're being supported, and we're going to explain our issues. We're going to explain the things that have taken place with us being in the workplace, the way men interact with us. And yeah, this is our truth. It's with that being the reality right now, you can understand that the last thing, just as Democrats, particularly when Democrats call everybody sexist and racist and and misogynist and all this other stuff, and one of the people who started your organization that's running for the most part in the Democratic Party, that's calling themselves just as Democrats, dealing with a party that for the most part exclusively only works with identity. And I understand Justice Democrats focus also on economics because for them they weren't beholden to the same interests. But you can understand that's somewhat awkward and problematic, and the last thing you want to do is be in a situation where you're answering questions on that. Nobody wants to deal with that. Nobody wants to deal with that. The irony is, I would wager that one of the reasons they fired Jordan was because they didn't want to deal with that. They didn't want to deal with it, which is amazing. That's amazing. Like, yeah, man, that's amazing. That's fucking amazing. That's fucking amazing. And they were not whores. Brian Tan, yeah, they were kids. They're just people, human beings. Night of Dreams, too old to be making comments. He did. See, I don't know how old he was. He was what? Maybe late 20s, early 30s? Yeah, man. Skip Rock. Cenk is a brown buffalo. Is a big brown buffalo. I would imagine Cenk is feeling pretty shitty at this point. Cenk was 30 or pushing 30 at this point. Yeah, he had some age on him. He had some age on him. Improbable butt sounds... Improbable butt sounds pretty goddamn funny. Let's be honest. Read in economics. Improbable butt sounds like the next Clinton novel. Oh, Jesus Christ. The presidential stain. Yeah, on improbable butts. Fuzzhead. Cal was filling up softball teams. What? Cal was filling up softball teams. What? What? I think that's a gay joke, but I'm not sure. Night of Dreams. So 17 years ago. Yeah, about 17 years ago. David Landry. Sam lost respect when he sold out to the establishment Democrats, but his joke was nothing at all like this. Yeah, agreed. David Landry, agreed. They're trying to tie those things together because right is just trying to take these guys off the playing field. But yeah, Sam Cedar's joke was different. Sam Cedar's joke was different. Sam Cedar annoyed the shit out of me when he went after Jimmy Dore. And so there is not this thing where I have this, great fondness for Sam Cedar. But come on. It's like, come on, be honest. Be a goddamn human being. You're looking at the man's joke. You can look at it and know it's sarcasm. The problem is you have other people who have this idea that what they believe is reality is actually real reality. It's like, this is the real thing. This is the way things are, and these things are solid structures. Those things are just perceptual things that you buy into, your own paradigm of the world. There are ranges in those things. Like, it's not this hard to fix reality. There was nothing wrong with Sam Cedar's joke. But you would have some people who are uber sensitive about that stuff, uber touchy about that stuff, and are aghast by it. Fuck context. Sarcasm be damned. The very fact that you said it is enough for me to be, be triggered and have my fingers in a Twitter. So, yeah, those things are different. I think those things are different. I think those things are very, very different. Yeah, one was a joke. The other one was a person being honest with what he thought at the time. I was like, fuck, man. Paul Lavender, feminism runs everything. I don't think feminism runs everything. It's funny. I've called myself a feminist, and I've used the term more so from the standpoint of, I just think you're a human being. I believe you're equal to me in every measure. There may be like dynamic differences. I may be able to pick up something heavier, and maybe not me because I don't have any muscle mass. But under normal circumstances, being able to lift up something a little bit heavier. But for all intents and purposes, our value is equal. We're not, we're not different in this way. Your rights are equal up to the point of my own. But there's a caveat on that. Like, this thing of policing speech and yeah, this SJW stuff, it gets too much. It gets too much. And it starts to lose me. It's like, yeah, defending you to be you and making sure that people aren't being sexist and racist and bigoted, all that stuff. Yes, defend that stuff. Should defend that stuff. The hegemonic view of that winning out in that way is a good thing. The left, for the most part, has won that argument. And they need to fight for that argument. But it shouldn't be to the exclusion of everything else, particularly when you're talking about like economics and everything else. And yeah, that pendulum can swing too far in a way where you're alienated people in the culture itself because the people are too scared to say, politically correct. Yeah, I don't believe in that. Let people speak their piece. Mind you, again, that stuff goes with the Rangers. At a certain point, if you're a political actor, that's not gonna fly. And if you're gonna have if you're gonna joke Donald Trump for grabbing by the pussy video, and you have your own grabbing by the pussy, thing, it's kind of rough. Time for an improper touch perverts party. James Wilkins. Jason Chi. I heard the post was 18 years ago and people can change over the years. Jason Chi, that's kind of my point. That's what I'm asking. At what point do we look at this stuff and say, well, yeah, but this guy is not the same person? Daily Wire is trying to make this point of, well, look, he said this in 2013. He's talking about improbable butts. 2013. I think improbable butts is honestly, I think it's funny. And I think that's different than the other post, if that makes sense. I think they're reaching. They're trying to find a way to impeach the stuff that he's saying. People can change. People can change. I mean, come on, let's be honest. We look at this sometimes and act as if, it's like, I am so far above this and there is no capacity in which, all of these other people will be, behaving the same way or talking the same way and all this other stuff. It's like, what are you when you're 18 years old? What are you when you're 20 years old? Now, I know in his case, I think he was like 30 or something like that. But yeah, Jason Chi, I agree. People can change. I've asked this question before. It's like, is there such a thing as redemption? Now, in their case, whether he changed or not is kind of immaterial. It didn't matter. The politics of it demanded his resignation. There was no way they could keep him on. If your goal is to get your candidates access and get your candidates pulled into the left and all this other stuff and get them support, the last thing you want to do when you have an uphill climb is to have to deal with this conversation about, hey, what did you think about the guy who started your companies, talking about, just talking about kids. Like, shit, man, just calling them whores in training. They were just children. You can imagine that would be a difficult conversation to have, and that is the last conversation you want to have as a candidate, as a politician. So, HA is going to be spiking the football like nobody's business. Oh, man. I am going to be extraordinarily inebriated before I go over there because I'm going to be laughing my ass off. This is going to be fucking hilarious. That is going to be absolutely fucking hilarious. Let's see. But god damn it, there's it moved on me. As blasters greatest movie ever. Improbable butt blasters. Yeah. Again, Cenk has condemned people for old blog posts. Grabbing by the pussy happened in 2004. Howling. Yeah, that's my point. That's my point. That's what I keep saying. The grabbing by the pussy video. I mean, it's like at no point did anybody on the left come out and says, look, Donald Trump said this years ago. I mean, he was like a kid when he said this. I mean, maybe not a kid, but he was in his 30s, and people change over time and blah, blah. That shit was off the table. There was none of that. None of that. You were doing an election season. You look back and says, oh my God, this guy says grab him by the pussy. He's a sexual abuser. He's nearly a rapist, etc., etc., etc. Yeah, it went from there. It went from there. So yeah, there was no, yeah. Bob Ramirez said, karma's a bitch. You know, it's funny. I was thinking to myself as I was watching HA's videos, because I had came to this resolution to bring somebody on the show because A, I wanted to clear the air, and B, I wanted to be somewhat fair in the way I was going across with the story. And I ended up watching a bunch of stuff that I wanted to shoot my self in the face on. But I was... Wait a minute. Yeah, but I was... I thought to myself as I watched it, I was like, man, I think AJ is married. But if AJ ever steps outside of his marriage, he better have a contractual arrangement about all the things that's going to take place in that illicit affair. Because, man, if anything comes out about AJ, they are going to be bathing in his blood. They're going to be bathing in his blood. They're going to be going after his ass. Yeah, man, we should have some kind of 420 party and all of us watch HA's video at the exact same time where we're wasted. That should be fucking awesome. And again, this isn't me like chest thumping. I don't want you to think that. I'm also laughing at what I think is going to take place in that video. I've watched AJ go after Jordan like nobody's business. Like, relentlessly go after Jordan, regardless of what the people in his post was saying. He was like, just stop watching my channel. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do this. Like, this kind of pugnacious going after him attitude. Like I said, I actually like that trait of his. It annoys some people. I actually like that trait. I think that's a fucking good soldier. And yeah, he greatly dislikes Cenk Ugyur. Greatly dislikes Cenk Ugyur. So I'm going to imagine that there's going to be some amazing shit that takes place on that channel. So yeah, I'm going to be watching that channel. Let's see. Will G. In reality, all I think about sluts is what people want to be. We love sex, but we're not training till 16 or 18 where we can learn what we really like. What? I think I understand what you're saying. In reality, all I think about sluts is that what people want to be. We love sex, but we're not in training till 16 or 18 where we can learn what sex is really like. You know what's wild about that, though, is, you know, it's weird. We have so many hang-ups with regards to sex. Like, we're stuck in this weird thing of enjoying something, but it goes unspoken in the way we enjoy it. It's so bizarre. It's like enjoying something is in and of itself somehow a bad thing, and so it's kind of you know, pushed away. People aren't comfortable with just kind of enjoying the thing. Killing, that's okay. You can kill. Like, you can do a movie where you're killing a bunch of people. You have a movie where somebody's having sex and things get X-rated. You're not going to be able to see it. It's amazing the way we give those distinctions between sex versus violence, even though one is fucking awesome and the other one gets people injured. Let's see. HA does nothing that is original. Titus. Let's see. Free digs. It's because having sex out of marriage is still taboo. No, it is. It is. Let's see. Marduk. There may well be actual victim out there, but I don't believe any of the accusers that waited until the general election to claim it. You're talking about for Trump. like this thing of waiting until the election, all of the people come out the woodwork saying that, you know. The thing is, Trump is so gross. Like, it's he's his worst enemy on a lot of this stuff. I mean, you have a video he's talking about grabbing by the pussy, and ultimately the guy lies as easily as breathing. And yeah, he just seems only out for himself. He fits a particular caricature, even from the standpoint of, you know, Mexicans are rapists and drug dealers and all this other stuff. He fits certain narratives, certain things that you can kind of associate together where you think, well, yeah, that sounds about right. So whether or not there's an accuser out there or not, I have no idea. No idea. I'm inclined to believe yes, but again, I'm biased in this case because he fits a particular narrative. It's hard to kind of separate yourself from it. Omi, yeah, so you're saying he is innocent then? Nope, that's as bad as the other guy. Upset because he spit on Alex Jones's face. What? Wait, you lost me on this. Yeah, so you're saying he's innocent then? Nope, that is as bad as the other guy. Upset because someone spit on Alex Jones's face. You mean because Jimmy Dore spit on Alex Jones? Yeah, Jimmy Dore shouldn't have did that. Jimmy Dore shouldn't have did that. Alex Jones is a fucking maniac, but Jimmy Dore should not have done that. Let's see. Not sure why we sex shame. Can't really blame people for being sex enthusiasts. Yeah, I don't quite get that one either, right, in economics. Yeah, I don't get that one either. I think it's, I've made this argument before. I think it's from this Puritan culture, this kind of thing that's just gone through the years, where, you know, sex and religion was kind of intertwined in the way our society just kind of evolved. And it's just this kind of vestige that just slowly creeps its way through society. It's leaving this kind of implicit pressure. Not to mention the society itself so much shuns it. So your society is kind of overtly aware, shunning something that everybody does, and yet quiets it. It's like it puts it to the side. It puts it out of reach or out of sight. It is somewhat strange. I don't quite get that. But like I said, you can watch a movie. Captain Kirk can be in that movie, and Captain Kirk can shoot 100 people in that movie, kill a bunch of people in that movie. Captain Kirk is still a good guy and all this other stuff. Everything's great. But you never see Captain Kirk having sex with the green chick. You never see it. You just you wouldn't see it. They would never show it. It doesn't even, it's even weird to even think about it in that way. They would allude to it. They would give you this impression of something taking place, but it's almost like from our cultural standpoint, it's considered vulgar in some way. The vulgarity of it, you know. And again, there's no such thing as vulgarity in this sense. It's not vulgar or otherwise. The society is looking at it and giving it a definition or giving it this kind of appraisal. But it's somewhat implicit. It's not this kind of explicit thing. In religion, it's more explicit. But for everybody else, not religious in the least. And yet, there's still this, you know, this aspect of society that's there, nonetheless. So. D. Martin, HA is getting a bulldozer license because of Hamas. That's wrong. That's so wrong. Bob, indeed, the Justice Democrat sheep is bringing its discontent. So tell me, Gardner, now that they don't have anything to do with Justice Democrats, are you now a Justice Democrat? Like, are you breaking out your JD thing that you had in your closet, your JD, your JD varsity jacket? Or is it still, no, I think it's toxic, I don't want anything to do with it? Due to communications technology, internet, society is constantly morphing and people can keep up. It's causing mass schisms. Yeah, Gardner, yeah, agreed. Agreed. I mean, because think about this, like, where would you have posted this 50 years ago? Like, who would have known? Like, there's no, unless he's writing to his editor, he's writing in a book somewhere, it's not a situation where this stuff is saved in perpetuity. It's, you know, it would have been gone away. Yep. JD Lucky Mood Ring. JD? Laughing my fucking ass off. No, he's definitely hot water. Oh, he's in definitely hot water. Tremolo tone. Well, he's not in hot water. He's been fired. Sexy revolutionaries. What's happening, Jenny Lynn? Darth Soros JD is your father. Bill Robinson, oh my God, is this true? It is true, Bob. It is true indeed. Yes. Jamal, can you watch this video called Fraction Magic detailing vote rigging deconstruction? Yes, I can. Fraction. Yeah, dude. I check it out. Brian Tan, I think it's just sex is easier to come by, so therefore there are more STDs. Nope, the nature of Justice Democrats is the same. They're meant to draw people into the party under the guise of reform. That's interesting. Like, and you might be right. You might be right. And this is one of those things where you might be right whether or not that's the intention or not. Call themselves Justice Democrats. You're trying to get those people registered for the party. Are those people just going to not vote for the other person? And is TYT going to support that other Democrat? Like, so say for instance, Paula Swearengin loses. Do they support Joe Manchin against the Republican? And if they are, then yeah. If they are, then yeah, you're right. We're heading back to the Puritans, Jason Smith. It's a re-switch, man. It's this thing of human beings are going to have to do one or two things. They're going to have to realize that people are just human beings, and that the impressions and the feelings and the sensations, those things are to some degree indicative of their environment. And some of that stuff is going to have to be accepted because ultimately this stuff is floating out in the ether. Meaning that it's almost like there's a reveal to the society itself. The society is dredging up stuff that the society for the most part kept hidden or kept to itself. I mean, yeah, it has to happen at some point, right? You have this entire, group of people who, for the most part, who felt like it was mistreated in the way that they were, like, I guess I'll look at it this way. I have two feelings about the thing with all of the women coming out. In one part, it's good. It's good. It's nobody should have to deal with these situations of, inequities in power or whatnot, and they should be supported when they're coming out like this. So that's the first part. The second part becomes, it's like, usually this stuff goes in the sense of like a pendulum swing. Is this one of those things where the pendulum swings so far in a particular direction that it becomes awkward in trying to deal with anything because people, are I don't want to use the term overly sensitive, but like, for example, supposedly it's not Iceland, it's like Sweden or something like that. I don't remember where I heard this from, but somewhere like Sweden or Switzerland, they were talking about like some kind of contract if you're going to have sex with somebody, and you can have retroactively committed rape if something or some element of the contract was not true. Like, so say for instance, if somebody says, you guys hook up and you find out later on that the person didn't necessarily wear a condom, even though you said that that person was supposed to wear a condom. Well, technically you did something that wasn't necessarily above board, and the argument is this is somewhat some degree of a rape. In this case, I actually kind of agree with that. You shouldn't do stupid shit like that. But it's like, at which point? Is it a pass? In fact, it's made me even question my own behavior. Like, but I don't think I've done anything like this. Mine was always like, I've hit on women, but not, let me say it this way. I've always had this thing in my head where it's like, I don't want to bother anyone who doesn't want to be bothered, if that makes sense. Like, I don't have this thing of I'm hitting on this person is completely unaffected by my hitting on them, and I just plow through it like in the movies. It's like, if I keep at it, she'll love me. No, at the very first sign of displeasure, I am out. I was never the point to push. So that was never my issue. But I still think about, like, yeah, there was one particular case, and this wasn't assault or anything else. Her and I were still friends. We were, all of us were wasted. All of us were kind of in the room. We're drinking. We're playing cards, and it's like you're flirting. If each person at the table is flirting, at that point, you kind of have to at some point make a pass. At what point is making the pass itself? I guess if the pass is unwanted, then yes. I guess it would be considered some rear assault. I guess if the past is wanted, then at that point that line never existed. Yeah, man, it's society has to keep up. I guess that's what it boils down to. And those rules are always shifting. Those things aren't hard and fast. I've been aghast at some of this stuff. I was having a conversation with one of my best friends. Him and I were having a conversation with his dad, and I think his dad's best friend. All of us were kind of sitting around the house talking. We were adults. Everybody there was adults. Of course, they were adults if it was his dad. And inevitably, with a bunch of guys sitting around talking, the subject of women come up. I think this was in the context of relationships or something like that, but somehow the subject of women come up. And they're going into this idea of, there was like, yeah, you guys have it easier. He was like, we used to have to, pry women's legs open and whatnot. And it was like, you guys were fucking rapists. He was like, no, that's just the way it was done. It's like, dude, you guys, this sounds rapey to me, man. And swearing up and down that no, this is just the way the things were done back then. It's like, yeah, that sounds rapey. That sounds rapey. I understand that they have those Don Draper films and all this, like the Mad Men thing and all this other stuff. I don't know, man. I guess I look at it as these are human beings. And in the same way, I wouldn't necessarily want to be, I guess, diminished in that way. I don't necessarily want to inflict that on another human being. Yeah, the rules changed. I guess that's my point. That's my point. Titus rapey. Yeah, it's a bit rapey. Tabitha Enriquez. It's not always been the case. Many states don't even have Planned Parenthood clinics in every city. One of the main places people go for testing, contraception, education. You know what's wild about that, Tabitha? Republicans attack Planned Parenthood as if Planned Parenthood does the majority of abortions. Planned Parenthood does like 2% of abortions. Most of their stuff is child care, prenatal care. And these guys actively try to shut down those clinics. It's fucking amazing. It's fucking amazing. It's like we love children before we love zygotes. We love zygotes. We die on the flag to protect the zygote. But once you're born, you're on your own. You're on your own. Jesus said you can go kick rocks. It's amazing. First time my mom gave me the talk, she was like, little girls are the devil, Bobby. Some can be a little nuts, yes. I don't even watch TYT. I just watch Democracy Now! And some RT. I like both of those. Yeah, Freedex, I like both of those. Is Jamal saying, let he who is without stone cast the first sin? No, I'm not. Let he who is without the stone cast the first sin. No, that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying human beings are human beings. And we come up with these odd rules, man. And it's like, in coming up with these odd rules and the way we interact with one another, we are extraordinarily unempathetic. Yeah, we're extraordinarily unempathetic. Like, we harp on it, jump on it, and all this other stuff. And look, as somebody who, I guess I'd probably call myself a cultural critic or a commenter in this way. I'm a double Virgo, Aries moon, and just kind of say, all right, the worst qualities of the sign, have at it. Have at it. Let the dogs loose. And so, yes, I understand. I also do the critic thing. I try to keep this perspective, though, of, at the very least, I assume that I could be wrong in what I'm saying and that most of the stuff is ambiguous, but for the most part, you kind of have to take a side when you're giving commentary. But that being said, we come up with these weird rules and we try to force people to conform to these rules. And they're trying to force people to conform to these rules. When they don't conform to these arbitrary cultural rules, we hit them. We ostracize them. We bash them. Without really asking kind of this point of, well, wait a minute, some of these things are just cultural norms, and these cultural norms don't really exist, and why are we giving people a hard time with some of this stuff? Now, that has nothing to do, by the way, with, I guess, how does this apply to Cenk? I guess this applies to Cenk from the standpoint of, how do people change? And if people change, is there any point where they can untether themselves from something that took place in the past? I think that's a good question. I think that's a fascinating question. And I have to be honest, it's not necessarily a question I have an answer for. It's like everybody is different on this. I'm part of the human race on this, and the same cultural things have been dumped into you have been dumped into me. If you asked me today, I would probably say Michael Vick should still be in prison. The idea that he was out there fighting dogs. If you ask me today, Michael Vick should still be in prison. And I'm forced to confront this thing of, well, wait a minute. Is there any point where Michael Vick should get out of prison? Like, is there any point where you can live that specific thing down? I don't know an answer to it. There's no way that you as a human being can ever really know what's inside that other person, if there's anything inside that person at all. You're always going to be somewhat of a black box. It's almost like the very act of you observing that person means you don't necessarily know what's actually in that person. Meaning there's no way to know. Like, there's no way to fundamentally know what takes place inside of another human being. Meaning there's no way to know if that person ever changes. There's no way to know what prods that person. There's no way to know what was even in that person's head at the point where something was taking place. So, yeah. Movies have this awesome way of giving this kind of third-person perspective where you can look at the perspective and see what's going on and have a certain amount of sympathy or whatever just from the person's struggles and the humanness of it all. But that's not our lives. We don't live in that way. How does it apply to Cenk? In Turkey, you're allowed to hit on many teenagers. In the United States, you're not. Are you serious? Is that true? I don't know if that's true. God knows. Is that true? You're trying to say he's bringing Turkish qualities? Vick should have served 5 to 10 years hard labor sentence with no parole. Yeah, I feel the same. I felt the same. I didn't have all these lefty feelings on that. I felt the same. I totally felt the same. Chastity Renee. I think bad people have a pattern of assaults rather than 1 or 2. Creative experiments. Trump will pass Medicare for all just to piss off Bernie Sanders, and we'll all forgive Trump grab him by the pussy. Well, look, the Trump grab him by the pussy thing didn't hurt his campaign at all, so go fuck figure. Demand you cannot separate, untether yourself if you have a platform in a public space. That's what it sounds like, Dimitri. That's what it sounds like. That's what it sounds like. Agreed, Jenny. The white helmet's coverage was shameful. Standards are way too high to untether. Dimitri. Trommeltone. Yeah, they definitely pushed white helmet propaganda. Brian 10. Garnome is making an argument most Islamophobes make. Ooh. You're not doing that, are you, Garnome? Real News Network. I love Real News Network. And you know, Real News Network hit this thing on the white helmets. Yeah, they hit this thing on the white helmets. They're good in some things, but hard to watch. A once great media source fall. Trump has much more to answer for than grabbing by the pussy. Divine Mead, that is true. That is true. We're just talking about the grabbing by the pussy thing from the context of this kind of TYT coverage, and this is, I would make the point, Cenk's grabbing by the pussy moment. How do you get these fancy messages retracted things? I don't know. Freedex. We'll be checking out Real News Network. Real News Network is good, Freedex. Yeah, Paul J is good. I like him. I did a video joking one of Paul J's interviews, but I love the guy. He's great. He's really good. Apparently, Amy is more concerned with her image and funding to cover certain topics. Trommeltone. You don't know that. Come on. Come on, come on. I mean, she's... I think I know what you're talking about. You're talking about For Democracy Now! She does an awesome job. Amy Goodman, yeah. She was asked about 9/11. She said, "Are you trying to get me killed? Are you serious?" No, she didn't. I have to look that one up. I have to look that one up. D. Martin, JT, what are you doing over the holiday weekend? My wife every year has a Christmas party, and she invites a bunch of family members over to the house. I love my wife, so I put up with their Christmas party. That's what I'm doing over the weekend. Putting up with her Christmas party. Waiting for the night where Jamal comes in a Bonzo wig, then like Paul J can share the truth, Paul J can stare the truth out of anyone. Can stare the truth out of anyone. It's like a winner of staring contest. I love the guy. I like him. I like Paul J. I like the way he processes information, if that makes sense. And he's immensely passionate about the climate change thing. Like, lefties mess up on this argument about climate change, by the way. It's the way they argue it is not in this kind of amorphous thing that's out there. The person can't touch it. They can't see it. You argue from the standpoint of how it makes their lives better. Like, what are practical things that you yourself are trying to accomplish in order to make their lives better? The fact that the climate and those type of things are being addressed are secondary. Not to you, to them. The point is the argument. How can I say this? When you're doing stuff politically, the goal of you doing something politically, the goal is the point. The argument that you make is secondary to the goal that you're trying to accomplish. The argument is not primary. The argument is not primary. When they're telling you that we need to do X, they're usually telling you that for a particular reason. The reason that they're telling you that is because they need a reason to do something. They come up with an excuse. The excuse is secondary. That this is the point I'm trying to make. What's primary is the goal and objective. So, feel free to look up some live discussion, Devon, but I'm not wasting any more time. Oh, wow. Calm down, guys. You're being hysterical. I love that word. Garden, what do you see with real news? Trumbletone, our media tradition funding model is the real issue with a lot of personal gripes. Donors sometimes give with extra feedback. Yeah, I mean, that is weird, right? You have the situation of cash infusing our media. And with cash infusing our media, what if the story that needs to come out is antagonistic towards the cash that infuses our media? Like, how can you get certain stories out? Those things, not to mention the collusion between media and politicians. They get access, they share stories, and it corrupt, that type of stuff. This stuff is a cesspool. Alejandro Nespada. Read my email, JT, with an exclamation point. You're not the boss of me, man. You're not the boss of me. I'll check you out, dude. Frayed eggs. Don't separate furniture, fellas. Funny how all these recapitulations, the failure of Dean 2004 campaign, just with more online presence. Yeah, Howard Dean. The lobbyists, Howard Dean. Does anyone else find it incredible that you barely hear about sustainability from any news source whatsoever? Real News. Real News Network. You hear about it from Real News Network. You hear about it from them. I mean, their basis, keep in mind, they have a bias. Their bias is humanitarian concerns. Like, so, yeah, they think about climate. They think climate is a big fucking deal, so they spend a lot of time talking about those type of things. RT has brought up the Venus Project. They've had Jack Fresco on. But yeah, you're right. Like, you don't get that from the news and anything else. But there's a reason. There's a very specific reason. I don't know what your name is. Your name is a bunch of dashes. It's like dash, dash. All right, dash. I'll just say dash. There's a reason for that. Sustainability is expensive. Like, imagine yourself, you get a laptop. And say for the moment that laptop is made in a way that lasts for 10 years. Well, that company is going to go out of business. They need to keep producing those laptops. You need to keep buying those laptops. If they're not producing those laptops, nobody else is working at that particular factory. That place goes out of business. Your economy goes into a tailspin. Your entire society is built on the opposite of sustainability. That's my point. Yeah, it's the opposite. Howard Dean keeps Hillary's ass clean. Yes, he does. With his toothbrush. With his toothbrush. Cardino's going to get jealous about that. He's like, what? That powerful woman. How dare you, Howard Dean, putting your hands on my woman. Trumatone. Sustainability requires we move off fossil fuels, which means refocusing our entire economy. Yes, that's true. Big money doesn't know how to monetize renewables like fossil fuels. They can monetize, but they don't want to monetize it. They have huge amounts of infrastructure in regards to oil and gas and everything else. And those interests, like any other interests in a capitalistic society, is going to protect their base. It's like a drug war where, you know, Bob is going after Tim on this particular street corner. you know, you're cutting into my business. Yeah, oil and gas would do whatever it needs to do, whether it's buying politicians, legislation, or anything else, to stem the tide of those things if it's going to adversely affect its profits. Your society is held hostage by this stuff. Like, you have a billion-dollar, multi-billion-dollar industry, and everything that takes place in regards to the way we move around and everything else to some degree requires that specific industry. If you have something that makes that much cash, and they have money in that many politicians' pockets, how are you going to get renewables off the ground unless you have somebody who's like a true believer in just those things they try to push to get those things done? Sustainability, man, it's our economic model doesn't allow for it. That's all I'm saying. Which is, again, is insane. We have a finite planet, and based on a finite planet, we still use this idea of infinite resources and just go through stuff. Think about the time it takes for somebody to mine all those minerals and materials that's in your computer, and within a few years, they throw that shit away. That's like, those materials are real things. The monetary system is not. And yet that monetary system is essentially creating this odd process where we don't take the environment into account, we don't take human beings into account, we don't even take the labor that's required to pull those chemicals out into account, and we come up with these weird numbers to try to match against actual resources, even though there's no tether to these things at all. It's a weird system. It's an immensely bizarre system. The fact that people get ridiculously large amounts of cash is the only reason the system persists itself. The question becomes, why does the 99% allow it? It's like, wake up. It's like, wake up. Screaming in the camera, wake up. It's like, shit, man. You're being hosed. You have, I mean, think about this. You have 95% of the wealth went to the top 1% under Obama. That was under a lefty, supposedly progressive Democratic president. 95% of the wealth. Tom Hartman looks at that and says, well, I mean, that's just the structure. It's just a structure. That's just an act of God. I mean, it had nothing to do with policy, and had nothing to do with policy positions or decisions that were made in the office. It was an act of God. It was not an act of God. Those things were choices. Those things were choices. You pick your pony. You make the choice on who you want to support and who you want to go after. This is not... People like to go with this idea that society, like we're all pulling together. We're not all pulling together. We have very different interests. Meaning... Yes, you have identity interests and all those other things. It depends on which ones you want to exacerbate. But in a very specific case, class is a big fucking difference. And at some point, the 99% needs to look at them, pull themselves together and say, hey, we're in this together. I don't give a shit about your color. I don't give a shit about your race. I don't give a shit about your sexuality. We're in this together. What is the standard of living that you want to have? And let's try to hit that standard of living. If you want to give it to poverty, let's give it to poverty. What are the things that matter more? If there is one person that has $1 billion and there's somebody else living on the street, the society has failed. Society has failed. There's no situation where your society should allow something like that. Yeah. I'm bitching. Jamal, love your live chats. I see your channel is growing. Sucks. Soon we won't be able to chat with you soon because it will be filled with spam chat. Aww. Fuzzhead. Be optimistic, Fuzzhead. Be optimistic. Green Party of Santa Clara. I would still vote for a corporate-free progressive candidate, but the Green Party will not endorse them. Really? Oh, but the Green Party will not endorse them. Yeah. Well, I mean, for that matter, do Democrats endorse Green Party members? I don't think so. If we choose to have just one child per family for one generation, we make a huge effect on the world population. Trimmeltone. I am okay with that. The question is, how are you going to get other people to be okay with that one? I told my friend, I was like, well, we need to just make sure people have like one kid. And he was like, who's going to do that? I said, we need to step in and we need to just make sure they have one kid. He says, dude, you've lost your goddamn mind. He was like, that is so not going to fly. Yeah, that's still not going to fly. Harmony Alexander. How long has Jamal been at this great channel? I've been at this I've been at this for about a year. I started, I think, back in January or February, maybe even a little bit later. So it might have been less than a year. That overpopulation bullshit is a lie, Jenny Lynn. So Jenny, it's not so much overpopulation. I think the argument has to do with the carrying capacity, like this thing of if climate change is an issue, how do we cut down on the environmental factors that drive the climate change, carbon, and so forth? If you're talking about just the ability to supply needs, then yeah, you're right. It's bullshit. It's bullshit. We have technology. We can figure shit out in regards to carrying more people on the planet. The issue is the way we distribute our resources. What? It's like 6 people has like half of the world's income. What the? I mean, that's so fucking insane. Like, that's so insane. So yeah, when you have a situation where 5 or 6 people have more wealth than half of the world, then yes, you're gonna have issues of poverty. You're gonna have issues of poverty. We don't have infinite resources. We don't need less humans. We need better methods. Alejandro, yes, agreed. The population is BS. I don't think it's completely BS. Like, don't misunderstand me. The Earth can carry this particular like, everybody on this planet can have all the things that the people need on this planet. You can't do it if you're living the way we're living, though. You can't have it both ways. Like, we would need like 4 or 5 different planet Earths if we wanted to live. If everybody on the planet lived in this way, you can't do it. You can't have a society that eats up all the resources in this way. It doesn't work. At least not if you care about other people in the world having the things that they need. Also, you can't do it if your technology is purely used just to make other people profit. You know, it's like all of this technology, and the whole goal of the technology is make somebody else rich. It's like your world has to make a choice on what it believes in. Do you believe in people or do you believe in profits? And yeah, if you believe in people, then yeah, you can use technology, you can use innovation in order to make sure everybody on the planet has all things they need, the access to the things that they need. But not the way we go. Yeah, not like this. Definitely won't hurt us to have a few less people around. Red economics. Yeah, I don't think it would hurt us. No. I think their argument is it's the overpopulation thing is bullshit. We can cover, we have the resources to make sure people have the things they need. And they're right about that. Would it bother me if there were less people around? No, it would not bother me in the least. No, it wouldn't bother me. Zico Moonman, you can believe in both. Yeah, agreed. Agreed. Mark Walenga, I hope so, but people seem like they don't care. I tell people all the time, and they just keep quiet or make excuses. That's just being a person in this particular society. I understand you're prodded in the society to behave a particular way. It's like you're not free will. Our monetary system will bring down the system before overpopulation will. Agreed. It's eating itself. It's completely eating itself. And no, it's not 100% sustainable as it is. Trommeltone, there's no way we can keep this up. You heard it first here. Jamal supports mass genocide. So I've been called a quote-unquote rape apologist by a bunch of people who made assumptions about somebody else's rape. Those same people call me rape apologists went after somebody essentially making rape jokes about the person, thinking that it was funny, completely missing the irony of the fact that they just were going after somebody, accusing somebody of rape that they didn't have any evidence for. And now it's like mass genocide. And mind you, this is after already having conversations of cannibalism. It's like, is cannibalism wrong? Why do we think cannibalism is wrong? So yeah, we're talking about mass genocides, cannibalism, all sorts of weird shit. There are many aspects of that society that should not be monetized. Agreed. Not every project can be for profit venture. Agreed. Garnham, agreed. Personally, I think we should get rid of money entirely. So yeah, I'm further to the left than most on this. I don't understand why people are okay with hierarchy in this way. If you're better at me at something, like if you're teaching chess and you can kick my ass in chess, then you have a natural hierarchy just based on your skill level. But come on, money isn't real. And coming up with these hierarchical systems where you have this person with massive amounts of cash, this guy says, Jeff Bezos has $100 billion. Put that in context. Jeff Bezos has $100 billion with a B dollars. Do you understand that you have pockets of the United States that look like a third world nation? Literally. And this guy has $100 billion. You have people sleeping on the streets. The SPCA was using robots to kick people off the streets, kick homeless people off the streets. This guy has $100 billion. Your society has failed. Your society has failed. That is an insane way of allocating resources in that way. Why would anybody, like, and for the society to look at this and agree to this and say, yes, you've conned us into believing that you've done something in your life to warrant you getting $100 billion while other people sleep on the street. It's fucking amazing. Let's mine that $10 billion asteroid and make us some TiVo. Robert Bouquet, right? Terry Robinson. Oh, God, now I'm being called Hitler. I'm not okay with genocide. Do you think Jeff Bezos is sick in the head? Yeah. Anybody who has that much cash is sick in the head. He did and has continued to do so for years and has a bad cap. So he used to say, I just point out that this kind of response to issues, that this can be used against us. Bob Romero, so wait for the deep state to release that Walking Dead virus. Oh, God. Well, I'll say this. I took a test on Facebook, and that test on Facebook said I would last for several years if we were in a zombie apocalypse. And I told my wife this, because Mrs. Thomas can sometimes be a contrarian. She thinks that I'm too sure of myself at times because she thinks I'm too sure of my opinions. Even though I've always made the caveat that usually when I'm saying something, I'm ambiguous about it. That I think she likes to try to take the piss out of me by taking that opposing opinion. And making this point like, look, I've took this Facebook test. And it's Facebook. You can trust it. There's no particular reason why I wouldn't trust it. They've, you know, have their Russian scientists and everything else that goes in and make sure that this test is accurate to a fault. She disbelieved me. She disbelieved me. Yep. Sorry, that was about the Cenk issue. Ben Earlhart, I agree with you, dude. I don't think any of this is good. I didn't think it was good when this came out about Jordan. I don't think it's good that this came out about Cenk. I don't think any of this stuff is good. I don't think any of it's good. Jamal wants to execute anyone with more than one child. Execute is too strong, man. Execute is too strong. Jalil, he was looking at me like, what is wrong with you? I was like, what do you mean what's wrong with me? A, I don't like kids. So that's the first point. B, there is no purpose to life. You make your own purpose. What do you want your purpose to be? Have at it. That's on you. That's whatever you want it to be. This idea of right, wrong, good, bad, all that stuff. Those things are human conceptions. So if there's no purpose, this idea of having kids and all this other stuff is it's neither here nor there. People do it to propagate the species. It's a difficult argument to make that you keep everybody to one kid. I'll put it that way. That's a difficult argument to make. And I'm pretty sure in the same way that you can pay brutes and thugs to be police and go into other countries, I'm pretty sure you can pay a bunch of brutes to be part of an organization in the government that says one kid and, you know, so punch people in the face when they have more than one kid. Jamal, do you have kids or plan to have kids? I do not have kids, Fazed. I do not have kids. That is a conversation. That is a conversation between my wife and I. Jamal is an animatronic front for Hillary. That's Gnome, dude. Don't bring Hillary into this. He gets touchy about her. He gets touchy about her. He gets mighty touchy. That's, well, we're in luck. Marvelous Marv. Democratic establishment are making sure Justice Democrats don't get past 2018 primaries. I said the same thing. I said something like opposition research, where, you know, so like Joanne Reed comes out and says, Bernie Sanders was being sexist towards his wife. I mean, he was just being physically dismissive of Jane. This is the weirdest thing in the world to hear. It's like this idea of Me Too, and they're going with this idea. They went with it anyway. And she shows the picture of Bernie Sanders standing by his wife, and she's like, well, I'm just trying to help Jane out. It's like, come on. There's something disgusting about that. It's like they're using Me Too as a political gimmick, if that makes sense. Like, it's not, you have several people who were taken advantage of, who were mistreated, who were abused, all throughout the United States. And for the first time in a very long time, these people get their chance in the sun where they can say, look, this is our story. We're speaking our piece. And the Democratic Party, being of ill repute at this point, and being somewhat castigated pretty strongly by the left, comes out and says, what we're going to do is we're going to latch ourselves on to Me Too. And so we're going to attack Bernie Sanders as being sexist. A, because he had the temerity to run against Hillary Clinton, and that proved it right there. I mean, because if you didn't vote for Hillary Clinton, you're a sexist, racist, Russian plant that's a xenophobe, that's being manipulated by Putin, and all this other ridiculousness. This is fucking insane. So, is it possible? Is it possible to any degree that's possible? That in the same way opposition research comes up against Trump, or opposition research comes up against other candidates. So Obama has that picture with he's, bending in the Muslim garb that Hillary releases, or this stuff pops up. They use it to hit people. Is it possible that they looked at this and said, these guys may be a problem. Let's hit them in the knees. Let's hit them in the knees. Maybe. I wouldn't be shocked. I wouldn't be shocked in the least, man. I would not be shocked. Freedags, how many husbands have sat through a convo where their wife is having with them, and they didn't hear a word she said? That goes both ways. That goes both ways, Freedags. I'm not going to take a lecture from you, man. That goes both ways. My wife will hear me have a conversation. She'll be like, babe, I'm not really into this conversation. Now, if I said the exact same thing, she'll flip out. Totally hysterical. What? I'm just having a conversation with you and you never talking blah, 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 blah. It's like, wait a minute. You just told me the other day that you had no interest in the thing that I'm talking to you about. You can't have it both ways. It goes both ways. It's called being a fucking human being. On the topic of capitalism, has anyone bought a Peter Joseph? Yeah, Peter Joseph's Human Rights Movement is a really good book. He gets his story, the basis of his ideas is Jack Fresco from the Venus Project. I would say look up Fresco. I think Jordan released the leak. He said he had stuff on them. Jamal, I agree with you. It's folks depend on Bernie. Yeah, depending on Bernie is weird. That's so bizarre. It's gross. I'm sorry, it's gross. It makes me dislike that party that much more. Like, yeah, it's gross. These women are coming out with something that's heartfelt and being earnest. Me too. Me too. It is summed up in that slogan. Me too. Me too. I am also a survivor in this way, or I have also experienced this, or I am with you. This is solidarity. And the Democrats put their crusty fingers into the mix and saying, hey, us too. And we're going to use it to attack everybody else that we don't like. So Bernie Sanders is sexist. And all these other people are Russian bots. And they're also sexist. And Putin was manspreading. And Bernie Sanders, he was real sexist. Like, they keep hitting Sanders. They really hate Sanders. Sanders standing there just smoking a cigarette and drinking a cup of cocoa just makes them look so ridiculous. Because even in that moment, he's the real deal. And they're not. Jamal is determined to provoke Mrs. Thomas into beating him with a damn rolling pin. Shirley Vick. In Tim Black interview, Donna Brazile said Bernie is not a Democrat. I cannot stand that party. Agreed. Donna Brazile was talking out both sides of her mouth in that interview. She would make this point that Bernie's not a Democrat. It's like, but what does that have to do with the price of tea in China? It's like, so it's like your argument, the structure of the argument itself. She's a Democratic operative that is trying to make inroads on the left. That's the beginning and end of it. If anybody is believing that they're being had, that woman has been in politics for 40 years. And she full well understands doing this kind of kamikaze run where she's coming out saying, look, I've released this information. I'm one of you guys. You should let me in. And then you have these networks trying to rehabilitate Donna Brazile. I would not believe this. I put it that way. I would not believe this. Jamal the Hill just published an article talking about Hillary Clinton is going to be involved in the 2018 elections. Thoughts? I have expletives. I just have expletives. That woman needs to go the fuck away. Go away. Like, you've lost everything. Like, you've You've lost a fucking reality show host. Why are you still in politics? Your approval rating has gotten worse. You understand that there is no Democrat in their right mind that is going to want you to be out there on that campaign trail with them. They're not going to want to take pictures with you. They're not going to want to shake your hand. They're not even going to want to mention your name. It's fucking amazing. Fucking amazing. X Factor 541. Bernie is going to run in 2020. Yes, Bernie Sanders is going to run in 2020. Yes, Bernie Sanders is. Abby Martin is great. She had some great podcasts on Joe Rogan's podcast as well. Brian Tan, I like Abby, man. I really like Abby. She's awesome. That woman is ferocious. Yeah, that woman is ferocious. I like Abby. I like Abby a lot. Cheryl Vick. That bitch is too fucking arrogant. Who are you talking about? Abby Martin. Who are you talking about? Abby Martin? Donna tried to force Tim into making a verbal commitment to the DNC several times in the show. It was hard to sell Tactics 101. It was. Yeah, that was a hard interview to watch, man. And I don't think Tim did a bad interview. Like, I actually think Tim did a pretty decent interview. They wanted, when people do interviews, they want something from that interview. Like, particularly when it's somebody you dislike. Like, when you're looking at an interview with somebody you dislike, A, you're not on their wavelength. The things that they're coming out of them, you're going to look at with a certain amount of skepticism. B, when they're telling you something that is running contrary to the reality as you understand it, it grates. It's like nails on a chalkboard. It's difficult to listen to, particularly when you think the person is consistently lying to you. Especially when you think they're lying to you. So, yeah, that interview was difficult to watch. And yes, it was very clear she was trying to make inroads. She was like, well, I'm going to be texting you. Why? Why are you going to be texting me? Why are you going to be texting me? For what reason? And when Mika Kans was like, Donna Brazile texted me. Oh, I'm an insider. I'm an insider. I'm an insider. I'm an insider. Yes. I'm an insider. Donna Brazile is texting me. Why is Donna Brazile texting you? That woman has been in politics for 40 years. Why are you believing anything that comes out of that woman's mouth? Excited by the whole thing. Oh, Marcus Gallegos. Marcus Gallegos. Ah, thanks, dude. We should put pressure on Cal Kalinske to resign from Justice Democrats and bring Cenk back. Progressives should have empathy and recognize people. Oh, what's the last part? And recognize people change. Why are you trying to get rid of Cal Kalinske? Wait a minute. We should put pressure on Cal Kalinske to resign from Justice Democrats to bring back Cenk. To bring Cenk back. Progressives should have empathy and recognize that people change. Are you saying that Cal should resign and Cenk should come back? Or are you saying Cal should say, unless you allow Cenk to come back, we're resigning? Marcus, I feel you. I understand where you're coming from. We should have empathy. Fair enough. I agree with you. As a flat fact, I absolutely agree with you. People should be far more empathetic. We have a much different world if people were. But that's not our world. There are reasons. There are reasons. This is an issue of politics. And this is purely just issues of perception. They don't want to have this argument. Like, they already have this kind of uphill climb where they have to deal with this thing of trying to deal with the party itself. And now you have this other hurdle of the guy who started your campaign making jokes about, you know, teenagers being whores in training. It's like, fuck, man. I mean, even if you're a right-winger, it's fucking hardcore. I mean, if Rush Limbaugh had said something like that, people's hair would have exploded. They would have been trying to get Rush Limbaugh taken off the air. I mean, imagine some shit like that. Like, he's making some joke about, yeah, I mean, these teenage girls, they were whores in training. You know, these lefties, fembots or whatever, these feminazis or whatever he used to say. Yeah, I think, yeah, their heads would have exploded. Their heads would have exploded. I understand your point. Don't get me wrong. I totally understand your point. If Cal said, if you don't bring Cenk back, I'm going to resign, they're going to say, we'll take your resignation. Thank you very much. Seriously, I don't. From a political standpoint, it is too much of a pain in the ass to have to deal with it. That's all I'm saying. They don't want to have to deal with it. Yeah, and from their standpoint, is their opponent going to hit them over and over again on, I mean, we're still trying to protect women, and we're fighting for women, and we told Al Franken to get the fuck out when Al Franken was looking ridiculous on camera, grabbing that woman by her breasts. This is us. We believe in the Me Too thing. And those guys over there are running against us, and they didn't tell their person to resign after he was caught talking about raping a kid, or after he was talking about teenage whores. It's like, oh man, is that what you want to talk about on the debate stage? Yeah, that's intense, man. That's intense. Gardno, Abby is one of the few underground foreign reporters we have left. Yeah, Abby, I like her, man. She's good. I was talking about Hillary. Oh, fair enough. Fair enough. Sometimes I lose the thread in regards to what's being said. Trouble Tone, but I live in a state that's currently being decided by contests. I live in Virginia. One of our seats was chosen by one vote. Literally. Not being figurative, not being hyperbolic. One vote. It's amazing. It's absolutely amazing. Brian Tam, ranked choice voting has problems as well. Everything has problems, dude. There's no perfect process to anything. But certainly there are things that are getting better. Like, you can move in a particular direction. I think ranked choice voting would be a decent direction to go in. I just don't want blood on my hands, Dax. Who is this? Dash, thank you for making quality content. Thank you, Dash. Thank you, I appreciate it. Jamal, I thought that was the state for being decided by a coin toss. Well, see, Virginia, well, see, I hadn't heard that part. The last thing I heard about Virginia was they won by one vote. That delegate seat literally was won with one vote. It's amazing. I've never seen anything like it. Never seen anything like it. Tremeltone, they contested the one vote and found another and are going to do a coin toss. Are you shitting me? That is mind-blowing. Like, a coin toss? It seems so random. It's like, well, public can decide, so fuck it, we'll leave it up to God. Let God do it. I think ranked choice would be more of a band-aid instead of actually diagnosing the problem and fixing it. Brian Tan, yeah, I agree. The problem is, man, at least, look, I look at this as you try to move the ball forward. In moving the ball forward, ranked choice is better. And it also helps you with a different problem. Both parties try to find ways to game the system to keep out third parties, while you have the situation of having the other. Like, meaning, I'd vote for the Green Party if I thought other people would vote for the Green Party. That type of thing. Where the person is being blackmailed into kind of, by their own intelligence. Meaning there's a certain logic associated with, okay, I'm just going to lump in with the herd, even though I don't want to lump in with the herd because I want my vote to count. I would vote for so-and-so if I thought this other person was doing it. Ranked choice voting allows you to get past that hurdle. So it's not, I would vote for this person if so-and-so, you don't care at this point. I'm voting for Jill Stein. She's my first vote. And if you want to vote for somebody else for the second one, have at it. But at the very least, that vote count gets added. It gives you a much better chance of bringing in third parties into the mix. People aren't scared that their vote is going to somehow tank the system. Right now, you can be blackmailed with your vote. Meaning Democrats can hold a gun to the American public's head using the Republican Party. Vote for us or else. Yeah. Zox Abux, they want the appearance of a moral high ground when demoralizing on dirt. Yeah, agreed. Agreed. I think that was the reason why they were attacking Trump in that way. This thing of Trump is sexist, Trump should step down, and all this other stuff. And Al Franken giving this sad speech where he looks completely bewildered, like I don't understand what's taking place here. I'm being kicked out, while at the same time attacking Trump. So they reduced to a damn coin toss. The coin has two heads. Two heads. Jenny Lynn. Yeah. Gardner, yes. Yeah, I just got it. Yeah. What's awesome, Dax, that in America you call yourself liberal while actually being a conservative. Trust me, hardly anyone would notice. Yeah. Yeah. I made this argument in my other videos that the British Party, the Conservative Party in Britain, is essentially the Democratic Party here. You can make a case that the Democratic Party is further to the right than the Conservative Party in the UK. That's fucking amazing. Americans don't realize it. They've gotten so accustomed to this kind of right-wing country that they don't understand it. Many consider Obama a radical leftist. God no, man, I know, and that's a goddamn shame. But you know, they use that to try to put a border wall in that way. Like, this is as far as left as you can go, which is essentially a guy who gave 95% of the wealth to the top 1%. Think about that. That's the farthest left you can go. Those are the bounds of the debate. Over the window has been moving right for decades. Tremonton, yeah, but that wasn't by accident. When Bill Clinton outraised the Republican that he was running against, George Bush, and he gets in that office, he starts doing policies that even the Republican wouldn't be able to pull off. He does NAFTA, he ends up doing the crime bill, he ends up doing the welfare reform. 70% of the kids, or the people that were kicked off that welfare reform bill, were kids. Bill fucking Clinton. Glass-Steagall, financial deregulation, Bill fucking Clinton. Deregulation of telecommunications, Bill fucking Clinton. Privatizing Social Security. Now, a lot of people don't know this one, but it's absolutely true. Bill Clinton had made a deal with Newt Gingrich to privatize Social Security. The blowjob. The blowjob. I did not have sexual relations with that woman. You know, that thing that took place. Bill Clinton getting on camera lying, saying he didn't have sexual relations with that woman while having a presidential stain on the dress of Monica Lewinsky, one of the interns. That derailed the privatization of Social Security. The presidential stain derailed. What Monica Lewinsky went through is hard. Like, I wouldn't necessarily wish that on anybody. But by the same token, Monica Lewinsky saved Social Security. So, yeah. So there's that. So there's that. Bob Ramirez said, Clinton was their God, Obama was their Jesus, and Hillary his mother, the DNC Trinity. The Trinity. Superman, Batman, and Wonder Woman. Bill sold American people out because of the, I don't know what the part is, close but no cigar. That's dirty and funny. Bernie Sanders might not have a wide as appeal as some people think he does. Just wait till they hear the economic beliefs and the media smears and such. That's fine. But ultimately, at the very least, actually have a real contest. Not two of the same parties. Give people actual choice. I have a strong suspicion that what you're going to find is you're going to have a left backlash. You have a radicalized left, which means they're backing him. Democrats, independents, and actual lefties. Meaning you have somewhat of a united front. There is no division in this. Yes, you may have division in the sense of Democrats wanting their particular candidate. But the party, people in that party want to move to the left. All of the polls I've seen the people wants to move to the left. Blacks, Hispanics, LGBT, all of these people love Sanders. There is no division in this sense from the Democratic Party in this sense. There is in the upper echelon. Don't misunderstand what I'm saying. I'm saying from the public itself. The public will back Sanders. And yes, because of the things Trump is doing in that office, you have a backlash coming. This is, look, I think there's a potential for something awesome. So, say for the moment, our revolution does pretty decent in the next election. And say for the moment that something surprising happens and you have like brand new Congress and some of these things, they're getting their people in those offices and those people are actual lefties. And Sanders wins. And you have this situation where this guy who calls himself a socialist is president of the United States, completely reforms what it means to be a Democrat or the DNC. And he goes to work attacking and going at the Democratic Party, essentially saying, this is the legislation I'm putting up, this is the legislation you're going to pass. And because Republicans have been so gross and they've lost all of the apparatus, which they may do this term, like In 2018, they may lose the Senate and the House. At least that's what they're talking about. The Republicans themselves. What are they going to do? Where do you hide? So you don't have the situation where you have an Obama-type president who doesn't necessarily really want to get anything done. You have somebody who calls himself a socialist. And that guy who calls himself a socialist has people who are in the party that he himself ran in. And he is like, Medicare for all. I want increased amounts on Social Security. I want to increase the minimum wage. All of this stuff. And what are the Democrats going to do? Are they going to say no? And if they say no, are they going to be willing to deal with the backlash from them saying no? You have a chance for something different. That's all I mean. It's a chance for something fundamentally different. Tabitha Enriquez, more millennials associate with socialism and capitalism. Yes. There's a shift. Yes. It's an older generation that remembers what the Red Scare, socialist was a bad word. Yes, Tabitha Enriquez. Yes. I've made the same point today. Make up with your enemy so you can stab them in the back. That's hardcore. That is really hardcore. Jenny Lynn, Triple Tone, it should be noted, credit where it's due. Green Party of Santa Clara, Bob Ramirez said they may have already done. He seems to have conformed. Zox Avux, common trick in online gaming. I don't know what that one. Missing the thread. Mental connections. Sex isn't all there. Is man at some point it's decided I wanted something deeper. I wish I believe America was smart enough to overall and deserved a candidate president to lead them like Bernie Sanders. I'd like to believe that. I just don't. You're trying to say, like, be smart enough to actually vote for that particular person. Yeah. I want to know, Jamal, on a totally different matter, what do you think of Australia? I love Sydney. So I've been to, thing is, I don't know Sydney's politics like talking about. I've been to Sydney. I love Sydney. I loved Sydney so much I had even considered trying to stay in Sydney. That's how much I liked Sydney. Loved it. You guys had calamari everywhere. Like, calamari was like French fries. Like, all... Personally, I love Sydney. I love Sydney. Also, you guys have a tendency to be less politically correct, which, coming from this country, is fucking amazing to watch. Like, there was a commercial. There was a commercial. There were a few things, actually. One of the videos or one of the movies. It wasn't a movie. It was a lesbian couple that moved down to the farmland, and there were a bunch of wallabies and kangaroos, and they were like eating their crops and whatnot. And one of the women comes out with a shotgun, shoots one. Its feet are like freaking out, and I'm sitting there like, oh my god, she just murdered a kangaroo. But like, that is some amazing shit to see. There was another one where there was a large Asian population in Australia. And apparently there was this friction with this thing of the Asian population not necessarily conforming within the language and everything else. And on one of the commercials, it was a news show. The news show was talking about, you know, having this conversation. And they showed this woman, an Asian woman, and she's screaming at the camera, "No English!" And it's like, oh, dude, did they just do that? It's like, oh my god. It is refreshing. It is refreshing. I have to be honest, it's somewhat refreshing. Because it's not done in a brutal way. It's not done in a mean way. And ultimately, a lot of the stuff is just boiled down to cultural phenomena, how the culture engages with stuff. You can watch British politics. These guys are hurling barbs at one another, pointing fingers and everything else. And you get to American politics and they're like, oh my god, he was pointing. He was pointing. He raised his voice. He raised his voice. Like, yeah, I liked Australia, man. I liked it a lot. I liked it a lot. Perth Amby. Who's Perth Amby? I don't see anyone named Perth Amby. Calamari is the greatest. Calamari is the greatest. Particularly there, man. It's fucking awesome. They have it all over the place. All over the place. Let's see. Nothing wrong with sex. I enjoy the hell out of it, but it's not all I want anymore. Oh, maturity. Maturity. Libya, all part of the AFRICOM, new focusing on Africa oil addiction to the Mideast, Centricom. Yeah, and let's be honest, to some degree, probably to head off the Chinese. Like, from what I understand, China had brought a lot of resources, or put a lot of resources into Africa. So, Oz is pretty conservative in many ways. It might be. Like I said, I don't know the politics. I don't know the politics in Australia. Like, it's not something I follow, like, talking about. I saw this documentary in Australia had this Thunderdome thing instead of politics. One of the funniest things that I watched was, it's kind of like a prime minister question. And I couldn't tell if it was the prime minister or the leader of the opposition. Turned his chair all the way around so his back was facing, the back was facing the opposition leader. It was the weirdest thing you've ever seen. He was like being an asshole on purpose. I was like, oh my God, wow, he's doing that. Wow, he's doing that. Yes, he's doing that. He's doing that. That's awesome. Ridiculous Bernie bro. I kind of miss caring about sex. Do you now? Do you now? Okay, Copter Force. Yeah, true, Jenny, but my whole point was that greed and idiocy and ignorance ultimately destroy the chances of any candidate like Bernie Sanders. Even if at the beginning the polls show positive. Look, I compare our politics a lot to the UK. It feels like we're shade over politically from Britain, from the UK in this way. They said the same thing about Corbyn. And yes, they attack Corbyn like nobody's business, and they treat him unfairly, and they say all sorts of bad shit about him. But if the election was held today, Corbyn would trounce the Conservative government. He'd trounce him. All the polls show it. And so, is it possible that Sanders withstands this kind of withering assault by the capitalist class? Yeah. But certainly, the capitalist class is going to go after him. Man calls himself a socialist. Yeah, they're going to attack him. The problem is, that doesn't necessarily work on people in their 30s, maybe even their 40s. And the people who are watching mainstream news are oftentimes up in the ages. Kids, 30s, 40s, they're on YouTube. They're on, online. They're looking at this stuff from multiple sources. I think he'll be okay. I think he'll be okay. Sanders won the important states despite the election tampering. And here's another thing. Sanders didn't have this problem where Hillary Clinton was identified as the quote-unquote black candidate, and so she's alienated people. He didn't have that problem at all. His issue was economics. So it was this kind of wide tent. You might have had the situation where people might have hated other people, from the identity standpoint under that tent. But it wasn't exacerbated. The issue, the thing that brought all those people together into that actual big tent was economics. That's the conversation that Bernie Sanders could have, because Bernie Sanders wasn't being paid by billionaires. Copter Force, Trump versus Bernie really is some dark side versus light side of the force. Have you ever been to one of Bernie Sanders' rallies? Gardner Noman's going to laugh at me because I always, he always says I get misty-eyed as I tell this. But, I went to Philadelphia one day to see Bernie Sanders. It was at Temple University. And it's freezing cold outside. We're standing outside for like 5 or 6 hours. The line had wrapped around the building 3 times. And it was a love fest. Despite being cold, despite being frozen, everybody is talking to everybody. Everybody is laughing and joking as if all of these people knew each other. It is a love fest. Now, you look at Trump's rallies, and those things are like a hate fest. It's like, oh God, those people are terrifying. The wildest part, just to put that point home, Jimmy Dore went to one of Trump's rallies. And I don't know if you've seen that episode after he got back from that rally. Jimmy Dore was like, I don't know what I'm going to do. Like, it shook him to that extent where he's like, oh my God, these people are hateful. Well, Sanders was the opposite. It was a love fest. It was a love fest. That place erupted when Sanders came in. It was so many people that it filled up the entire stadium, and Sanders went out to the holding room, essentially to the back part first, to talk to those people who were in the overflow before coming out, and just the crowd losing their minds. Yeah, Tom Cross, yeah, the energy is amazing at a Bernie gathering. Yes, it is. All of those people are there in this kind of this spiritual unity of sorts. And I don't mean to use it from this kind of esoteric standpoint. It's not a religious experience, but goddamn, it feels like a religious experience. And I understand me saying that that's the state that I'm in. It's not necessarily the state. I can't necessarily expand that to everybody else. But just from taking the way people were acting and interacting with each other and everything else, I would imagine that all of those people understood that they were united by this idea of a different place, regardless of their differences. I don't know Bob from the next guy, but what I do know of Bob is that there's one commonality that we share, and it's this thing of, this can be different. It doesn't have to be this way. That's intense. That's an intense feeling. And you compare that to this kind of division tactics, you know, on the right. So yeah, that's some light versus dark shit. But it is a love fest. It is an amazing feeling. Like you're in this almost euphoric feeling of sorts where this guy is getting out there and he's saying these things that are rattling in you, that you yourself believe, you yourself agree with, and that you yourself for the first time is actually hearing somebody give voice to. And it feels amazing. It feels amazing. And everybody in that crowd is flipping out and losing their shit, and most of the stage is hysterical. And yeah, it's a love fest, man. You feel it. Totally feel it. Bob has some Bob weed, though. Yeah, you can smell the weed. There was weed in the halls. There was weed in the halls. Like, you're walking by and you're like, these bastards are not even sharing. Assholes. You're assholes. James Wilkes is just like the Climate March. Oh, Climate March felt that way too. This larger thing that unites the public. And so all of you there, even though you don't know any of these people, at the same token, you're united with these people based on this kind of common vision. It's amazing, man. Yeah. When I think of Australia, the first thing that comes to mind is John Pilger. I didn't know he was Australian. Muslim lover of peace, man. Go ahead. It feels amazing because that feeling is absent in modern American politics. Yeah, Dash, I agree. I agree. I was covering Jeremy Corbyn on one of my other videos, and somebody was making this joke like, he says, I'm a Jeremy Corbyn fan, but Jesus Christ, man, you look like you're about to be his baby mama or something. And somebody kind of made this point to him, you understand that in America this is not done. Like, the conversation that he's having, like literally talking about homelessness or literally talking about the NHS and being an unabashed, valiant defender of this stuff, those conversations don't take place in the States. People wouldn't even know what to make. It's like, what the fuck is this guy talking about? He's talking about the homeless? He's talking about the homeless? What's wrong with this guy? He's president. It's part of the, one party system. You're not supposed to talk about the homeless or the poor or anybody that actually needs things from the political apparatus. Shit's supposed to be off the table. The absolute boy. James Wilkinson. I want to grow my own medicine in my window box. Fucking A, James. Fucking A. Shirley Vick. Bernie, talk the talk and walk the walk. Period. Agreed. 80% of the time, yes, I agree. 80% of the time. Jenny Lynn. There is no left in American government. No, there is no left in American government. I agree, Jenny. I agree. I full on agree. Love the interviews with Assange. I love interviews with Assange too. I do too. Assange is extraordinarily important. He really is. Robert Pouquet-Ray. I love how they introduce themselves. Jeremy Corbyn. Yeah. Questions to the minister. Yeah. I love that. And then he, particularly when they're going back and forth and he's filling himself. I can't think of the guy's name. The Speaker of the House. That guy. I like that guy in and of himself. The guy's a conservative. I actually like that guy. He always comes across as impartial to me. But he trips me out. Like the barbs that he comes out with when he's like ragging on some of the guys who's there. Questions of the minister. Jeremy Corbyn. Yeah, he's awesome. He's awesome. I love it. X Factor. That sold out crowd of 30,000 in Portland had to be the largest campaign rally attendance ever. The one in New York I thought was like in its 40,000s. I could have swore that the one in New York was massive, was larger. Jamal ate my tablet battery. Good thing I had power in my pants pocket. Oh, I'm being sexually harassed by Bob Ramirez. Bob grabbed my ass. Bob grabbed my ass. I feel uncomfortable. I feel unsafe. Yeah, it's been sad to watch. I agree, Jen. Yes, Jen. Ditto. Yes. A lack of truth and empathy destroys empires. Casa Casca del Tel. I'm just gonna call you Cacadel. Cacadel Toro. Cacadel Toro. Cacadel Toro. Okay. Yeah. Lack of empathy destroys empires. Yeah. I mean, you have people who are just these kind of rapacious, greedy pigs who are just trying to take everything for themselves. Yeah, agreed. Green Thumb Jamal, please go back and read the comment about teenage whores. Awful, but clearly wasn't Cenk. Why would he call himself by the name? We're just going to say no chances for dumb words. So, let me see. Let's read it again. Hold on. Did it work? Well, you know, they fired both. So if it wasn't Cenk, it was probably Dave Kohler. Let's see. Yeah, with Senior VP of the Young Turks, Dave Kohler. I think I read this. I mean, I read all of this. Yeah, but to be fair, I may have been conflating into as I was talking. But I did read this. That it was Dave Kohler. Well, here's the thing, though. They made Dave Kohler resign also. And I have to be honest, this one is probably the worst of the bunch. Like, this one is the worst of the bunch. Yeah, this one was the worst of the bunch. Here's the thing. This is kind of my point, man. I somewhat agree with you. Like, some of these are, I guess, difficult to hear. Slightly weird to hear. But I have to be honest, calling themselves the Young Turks, I think bugs me more than this, if that makes sense. I mean, one committed a genocide. This one sounds bad, but for the most part, they give me a pass on the Young Turk stuff. But yeah, this part, yeah. But either way, though, come on. Think of this from the standpoint of the politicians themselves, the Justice Democrats. They don't want to have this conversation, man. Even if you want to say we're going to stand by him, we're going to fight for him, etc., etc., Justice Democrats does not have that interest. Like, it's... Yeah, they don't have that interest. They're not going to want to have that fight. What man has not thought about boobs? Stacey E., I agree with you. I agree with you. I think I've said as much, that some of the stuff is like... Some of it's funny, some of it is stuff you just kind of say around your locker room and everything else. Not locker room, just a bunch of guys hanging out or something. But I think their issue is twofold. You published it. Roles reverse. They would have went after the same people, so let's be honest. I mean, yeah. I mean, it's this idea that it's published. I think that's probably the end all and be all of it. Ultimately, these guys are going to be running. The Democrats are going to point their finger and say, look at those guys who wrote this nasty literature, and why are you still affiliated with these guys, etc., etc. They just don't want to have the conversation. James Wilkinson, do we want thought police? No, I've mentioned that. I don't like the thought police thing. I don't like the thought police thing. Hell, everybody thinks about boobs. Ridiculous Bernie, bro. Everybody does think about boobs. Well, not everybody. I mean, you can't say everybody. You can't say everybody. I think someone infiltrated Justice Democrats and trying to destroy from the inside. Shuhu, yeah, I made that argument too. And in fact, I don't even think it has to be from the inside. Assume for the moment that you're part of the DNC. You understand that you're being assailed from all sides. You have 15 million people that left the party. You have other organizations that have sprung up trying to essentially push the party to the left. You have all of these people, for the most part, taking shots at the party, and anything that the party does, they kind of bring it up. Yes, they end up supporting the party regardless, but they do take shots and they do try to push the party to the left. If you knew that, and you feel like you were being assailed on all sides, would you go looking for information for opposition research on the people who run Justice Democrats? And will you try to find the most vocal person that's a part of that process? And would you try to hit him in the knees? Well, yeah. Where did the grab him by the pussy video come from? Like, you think that just came out of the ether, out of no? They look for opposition research. The Trump dossier, Trump, getting a hooker to pee on a bed. That stuff didn't just come out the ether. They actually went looking for that stuff. They wanted to use that stuff to tar the person. It's easier to tar the guy as opposed to having to actually deal with real policy stuff. So I am not shocked in the least that there could be a situation where somebody from the Democratic side is trying to hit him in the knees, trying to take him out. They want to smear him. And for the most part, that smear has worked since he resigned. He resigned. James Wilkinson, David Brock. This is my point, man. I wouldn't be shocked by this. Like, this isn't, I don't think this is a conspiracy theory or anything else. It's how do politicians behave, and do politicians get opposition research? And if they feel they're being accosted, and Justice Democrats is working with brand new Congress, and these guys have been trying to go after their candidates and running their candidates against their own, what do you do to hit them in the knees? And would looking up opposition research on something that these guys said a while back, would it do it? Yes. Of course they'll do it. Of course they'll do it. Jamal, besides Sanders, what other Democrats do you believe will run in 2020? See, it kind of depends. So if Sanders runs, Sanders is going to push out certain left candidates. So I don't think it's going to be a situation where Sanders and Elizabeth Warren run, if that makes sense. At least I don't think so, but I could be completely wrong. Gillibrand seems like she's trying to run. Kamala Harris seems like she's trying to run. I don't know if Cory Booker's trying to run. Cuomo, Joe Biden. You may have a large field of Democrats that are trying to run. Cory Booker, maybe. Brian Tan. Cory Booker would never be president of the United States. He can try to run all he wants. Good luck, superhero. Good luck. Drunken Master. So this is something Cenk said a while ago. Drunken Master, it is. Somebody went and dredged something up that Cenk said apparently like 17 years ago. And in the same way that they went after Sam Cedar, they essentially came out with this. Now, here's the catch. Here's the catch. From a political standpoint, even if you're Cenk Ugyur, and if you believe that this is not a big deal, say you look at this and say this is bullshit. They're dredging something up from 15 years ago, 17 years ago. I don't really think this way anymore. I was somewhat of a young punk asshole, etc., etc., etc. Even if you think that, your response to this is going to be essentially what Cenk Ugyur did. I look at this, I'm appalled by this, I don't necessarily like this. It is easier to just run headlong into the sun in this way as opposed to trying to resist and fight this, particularly when you're a lefty, and particularly when people can look up and say, this guy did a grab him by the pussy video, he was going after Donald Trump, and now he's, all of a sudden trying to wiggle out of this. So it is easier to look at this and says, yes, I'm appalled by my own behavior, and yes, I'm stepping down. That's easier to do. Yes, as Cenk Ugyur, you may want to have a hand in Justice Democrats. And yes, as Kohler, you may want to have a hand in Justice Democrats. But ultimately, that organization, if you started that organization because you want to take on Democrats, the last thing you're going to do is try to tank your own organization. So your best case, from a political standpoint, I'm sorry. I shouldn't have wrote that. I was in a different headspace then. I am backing down. I'm resigning from this process. I don't want what took place to overshadow this organization because this organization is boarding the ship, that type of stuff. You're almost compelled to behave that way. You can say this is bullshit, you guys are trying to take advantage, etc., but the moment you do that, you're going to have a lot of people who are SJWs, who are extraordinarily sensitive, and they're going to say, how dare you, sir? How dare you, sir? You're treating women like objects, and this is horrible behavior, and you're supposed to be a lefty, and you're blah, 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 blah. That's going to be the line of attack. That's going to be the argument. You're automatically going to polarize people the moment that you take those two sides in that way. From a political standpoint, it's easier to just say, you're right. You're right. And let it slide. Like I said, some of this stuff, the improbable breasts of Miami are only matched by the improbable butts. Come on, man. That's funny. Like, I'm sorry. That's funny. And I suspect he's saying this in humor. That's funny. Now, you may say he's objectifying women in this, and that is true. That is perfectly true. There is improbable butts. That is an odd phrase. That's all. The phrase is fucking hilarious. That needs to be on the t-shirt. Improbable butts. Just when I think Miami is all done, it pulls me back in. The women on this island are outrageously, almost unacceptably hot. I don't see how that's a bad issue. Why is that one a problem? I could see you say the objectification one on the top one, the improbable breasts and improbable butts. I don't know why improbable breasts and butts are bad things. But at the very least, I can kind of see that argument of, dude, this is blatant objectification in this way. But the second one, they're reaching. This is kind of my issue with the right-wing media on this. They're doing this for points. They don't care. And they're trying to impeach his testimony by showing these 2 tweets. If these are the only 2 tweets they can show to try to say, hey, see, he's still behaving this way. This was back in 2013. This is thin. This is thin. That being said, the women are genetically flawed one is just weird. That one is fucking weird. Women don't want to have sex with me enough. You guys are genetically flawed. You need to get your shit together. Have more sex with me. And then and I love this one. There's a certain egotism to this one that is fucking mind-blowing. Women, ignore these at your peril. Rule number 1, there must be some serious making out by the 3rd date. If I haven't felt your tits by then, things are not about to last much longer. In fact, if you don't get back on the ball on the 4th date, you're done. You're done. Rule number 2, there must be an orgasm by the 3rd date, by the 5th date. He doesn't specify whose orgasm, but there must just be at least be one. Yeah, I'm just saying. That one is somewhat non-specific. And this one is also slightly problematic. I had one of the best nights of my life at Mardi Gras. I kissed over 23 different women. I saw and felt countless breasts and was in a wonderful drunken stupor thanks to my friend Jack Daniels whiskey. Here's the problem with this one. You're grabbing tits while you're wasted and hammered? Are we to believe that all of those breasts that you grabbed were consensual breasts? Like, this sounds like a Ram Better Pussy video, that's all. Like, yeah, that one just sounds a little rough. But I have to be honest, out of all these, the teenage girl whores, man, that one is rough. That one's by Kohler, by the way. That's David Kohler. That one is rough. That one is rough. That one is brutal, actually. Like the other ones, you could say, well, he's being, you know, he's being a guy, he's being this, he's being that, he's having locker room humor, etc., etc. I don't know the defense for the whores one. Just don't know the defense for that one. Oh, wow. Jesus Christ. I grab chicken breast when I'm drunk. Brian 10. Maybe it was 12 women or so. The boobs came off in pairs. Oh, that's a good point. Maybe it wasn't as much sexual assault as we think it is. Maybe it was just half that amount. And I'm not laughing about sexual assault. I'm laughing at this comment, by the way. Somebody's gonna say he was talking about committing genocide, and then he was talking about having the government keep him to 1 kid per family, and he was fucking talking about, he was laughing at Cenk grabbing women's tits. I guess we now know Jordan Sheridan was, oh, that's wrong, that's wrong. That's wrong. Muslim lover of peace, man. I guess we now know Jordan Sheridan was schooled well by Cenk. Oh, that's wrong. TYT is the only outlet for Justice Democrats. What now? Well, it's not the only outlet. I mean, just because Cenk is not necessarily on the board doesn't necessarily mean TYT is not going to have his, you know, tilting itself in order to make sure Justice Democrats get all the air press that it wants. Yeah. The question becomes, oh man. The question becomes, do they run a campaign to try to get him pulled from TYT? Personally, I would think that would be bullshit. I would think that would be way, way too far. So I understand the political argument for getting rid of Cenk from the Justice Democrats. I get the political argument. They don't want to deal with the flack from that. In complete irony, it's for the most part the same argument that they gave for the Jordan Sheridan thing. TYT doesn't want to have a conversation about one of their reporters, you know, this thing of big splashy headline, Jordan raped somebody, and then even, look, I heard a testimony, I don't believe it's rape, but that being said, I mean, just based on her own fucking testimony. People give me shit for this, but based on her own testimony. That being said, massively inappropriate. Like, massively inappropriate. Where you have all these people who come because they just want to work. I want to be a journalist. I want to do this. I want to do this particular job. And it just looks bad, man. So, and here's the catch, though. You have to take it with a grain of salt. Because ultimately, you end up with this thing of he said, she said, and that type of stuff. But if it's even halfway legitimate, oh man, it looks bad. Because it looks like people are coming because they want to work. It's like, I want to be a journalist. I want to do this. I want to get into this industry. And this kind of, if I had sex on my work, at my desk at work, I would be fired. I don't begrudge anybody from having an orgy. Have at it, do you. But at the point where you guys are like using a TYT credit card for that stuff, and then you got this thing where they were talking about they were buying pot and putting it on their taxes. That part was fucking amazing. But the interaction it's awkward. It's this thing of I didn't come here to get hit on. I came here to do a job. I didn't, this wasn't necessarily an expectation I thought I was going to have. That type of stuff, that becomes problematic. That becomes extraordinarily problematic. It really does. So and look, I don't, I've said it before, I don't have a dog in this fight. I don't like or dislike Jordan. I don't like or dislike Cenk. If it's like my issues with them are somewhat contextual, specific to whatever is going on at the time, I look at this stuff to be some degree not real. But it's like as you're analyzing the story and as you're going through the story and you're listening to the way the story is going, and you say to yourself, you're like, yeah, I get, listen to the story. This doesn't sound like it was, the rape thing seems way over the top and way so hyperbolic. But the other stuff, it's like, oh man, I can believe the other stuff. And not just, and again, you take it as ambiguous because there's no way to know for certain. I mean, you're stuck with this thing of ambiguity. So don't misunderstand me when I say take all this stuff with a grain of salt. But if there's a reality to it, there are going to be some people who are sensitive than others, more sensitive than others. That's the first point. The second point is, because the people came to work, they expected a certain amount of professionalism in the way they're interacting with people. Doing a story and having sex with one of the employees. Look, this was just problematic. That's all. And not just problematic. It was this thing of, yeah, it's problematic. It's problematic, to say the least. It's like people aren't there to get hit on, pushed up on. Just want a fucking job. It's like I gotta deal with this guy breathing down my neck. Let's see. Yeah. We delved into Jordan, and this is going off the rails. Cop to force. But man, almost any group of guys going to a strip club, most people don't even want to know what they talk. I'm telling you. Cop to force, yeah, this is kind of my point, man. Some of this stuff is like guys talking to each other. Talk like this. You'd be surprised at some of the weird and crazy shit guys. When we used to play chess, some of the stuff the guys used to, some of the insults are brutal. Some of the insults were immensely brutal. Like, I hear this stuff and I'm like, yeah, this sounds bad. But if we're being honest, just from guys' standpoint, if we're being honest, I'm trying to think. In mixed company, yeah, we never talk that way. But just among guys, you end up on all sorts of weird fucking conversations. The strip club thing, for me, was always a little weird. Look, I've mentioned before, this thing of, I like to be able to understand what's taking place around me, if that makes sense. I know that sounds weird, but I used to get slightly nervous. So I used to be overweight when I was younger. I used to be like 260 pounds. I lost 100 pounds over the course of, I think it was like a year or two. And despite losing all that weight, in my head was still this chubby guy. So it's like I'd be 160 pounds, and in my head, I interact with the world as if I was still 260 pounds. It took years to kind of get out that headspace. But I would have this thing where I would be greatly uncomfortable being chased. Yeah, being chased, if that makes sense. And chased is a weird way to put it. It's one thing if I am on board. Like if it's like, yes, I like this person. I'm on board with this person hitting on me. Fair game. Even then, I like to understand what's going to take place or where things are going. But whatever. But immensely uncomfortable when I am disinterested. And I feel like the person is chasing me. So, yeah, I feel him. I guess I feel some of them on this. I feel him. Yes, he's still part of Wolfpack. The strip club thing, though, was, the strip club thing was weird to me. That's always weird to me. I've been to three in my life. Yeah, I went to three strip clubs in my life. Always slightly weird to me, and it was always making me slightly uncomfortable. I didn't know how to act in a strip club. Like, I didn't know how it's like, this is such a breach of normal behavior. Again, if that makes sense, I hope that makes sense. You go into a club. The first time I went with my best friend. He used to go all the time, and so he was like, dude, you should come with us one night, you know, we can hang out, etc., etc. So we go hang out. And it's just awkward. It's extremely awkward. You're sitting there, and I'm thinking to myself, I'm like, okay, what am I supposed to be doing? Like, and he's like, just enjoy yourself. I was like, I know, but what am I supposed to be doing? Like, I'm sitting here. He's like, well, you just enjoy the sights. I said, dude, but like, there is no context in society where you're just staring at women. Like, I don't understand this thing. You're just sitting there. You're just supposed to stare at women as they kind of gyrate and move around, and they're putting their ass in your face. But completely separately disconnected from anything of sex. This is so fucking bizarre. So I'm like, all right, fine. We're guys hanging out. Fuck it. We're guys hanging out. Let's do the guy thing. Give me a beer. Give me a shot of tequila. Let's be guys. Let's be cavemen. And he's like, you put money down. It's like, oh, this feels awkward, but okay. Feels awkward. Fair enough. And you get to a certain point where she's looking at you, and you're sitting there, and you're like, I'm immensely uncomfortable with this. Like, it's awkward. I just felt it was awkward. There's no situation where I am staring at women as they walk by, like where you're just intentionally just looking at somebody as they go by. As a guy, or just as a human being, your eyes may linger on something. You know, it's just like, this looks nice. That person looks nice. Those shoes are gorgeous. That dress is gorgeous. Whatever. Well, that works really well. Just as a human being, you know, your mind. It's like you almost this unconscious way of your mind clicking on something. But to sit there intentionally and stare, and have that person half naked staring back at you as she's gyrating, you're like, all right, this is slightly weird to me. Jaleel gets up, and he gets a lap dance. Like, he goes back to the back room, and he's leaving me out there by myself. I'm like, oh fuck. My nervousness kicks in because one of the women was coming by, and I'm like, I have no interest in this woman, and she's freaking me out. And she sits down, and we talk. Now, one of the things I actually didn't mind doing, I enjoyed the talking part. Like, if I was just sitting there and we were just having a conversation, everything's great. I understand what's taking place at this point. I understand the rule set. We're sitting here, we're having a conversation, we're talking about all sorts of shit. We're talking about politics, we're talking about the weather, we're talking about environment. Whatever, everything's fair game. At a certain point, she's like, hey, did you want a lap dance? I was like, oh, no, not really. It's like, I'm sorry, no, I don't. That's not what I was looking for. Oh, okay. Well, I need to move on to this other guy who may want a lap dance. It's like, oh, you're just talking to me. Okay, fair enough. There was one. I did get one lap dance when I was there. This woman named Sparkle. Sparkle was gorgeous. Sparkle was absolutely gorgeous. And Sparkle, she walks me to the back room, and I am immensely uncomfortable with this because I have no idea what's about to take place. And usually, I like, in my head, I've already seen what's going to take place. I have no clue. I have no context. And she's like, hey, you can grab my ass for an extra $20. I was like, I don't need to grab your ass. No, I don't need to do that. I'm being prudish here because under normal circumstances, not something I necessarily care about. People can do whatever they want. It's fair game. One, you've added money into this process, so it feels weird in this way to this kind of it feels weird this way. It's like adding money to this. It feels weird to me. But then it's also this thing of there's no actual sex. It's like, well, you're giving me a lap dance to what end? Like, what's the point? What's the end goal? Am I supposed to just sit here and just kind of fantasize while you're giving me a lap dance? It was weird to me, man. It was weird to me. I couldn't get into it. The other one I went to was in New Orleans. I'm walking down Bourbon Street. I'm with a friend of mine. Her and her girlfriend. Essentially, we're hanging out for that particular weekend, and they go to make a run for something, and I'm like, I want to go on Bourbon Street. I've never been on Bourbon Street. It was like, all right, look, we'll come back and pick you up afterwards. And I am walking down Bourbon Street. I'm going from one jazz bar to the next. I'm fucking loving it. I'm enjoying it. And I get to the end of one of the bars, and the guy comes out. He's just standing outside, and he says, "Hey, you like tits?" And I'm like, it's like, how do you say no to that? I mean, even if you're a woman, how do you say no to that? And it's like, yeah, I'm a guy. I mean, fuck, man, sure. He says, come on in. I'll buy you a beer. Come to find us a strip club. I spent the next 30 minutes, 45 minutes, drinking a beer, having a conversation with one of the women who were there. She was cool as hell. And we sat there and talked for like 30 minutes. The staring is weird to me, that's all. The staring is weird to me. I don't understand I don't want to be gawked at. And in the same way I don't want to be gawked at, I don't necessarily have this thing of wanting to gawk at somebody else. That being said, if that's how you get your kicks off and that's how you get your jollies off, God bless. God bless. It was just always weird to me. That's all. Jalil had gotten used to it, so he was like, yeah, man, I've gotten to the custom where I can just stare. Stare and do what? Just stare. I can just stare. And then he sheepishly put his money in somebody's G-string or something. It's like, oh, dude. Stacy E. Gawking is awkward. Gawking is awkward. Gawking is immensely awkward. Strip joints, losing business to camming, probably. To camming. Oh, right. True. You talking about like like the camera models or something like that? Those women who do the cam things. Yeah, maybe. So there was this show. They used to be called G-String Divas on I think it used to come on HBO, and they would. I like the people, man. It's the people part of this, if that makes sense. The reason why I used to I enjoy talking to the strippers. They're just human beings. They're just people. To me, it's like they're doing a job, and I don't necessarily need to take the services of that particular job. But yes, I think she's a fucking interesting person, so I want to talk to her. The gawking, yeah, the gawking gets a little weird. No, I don't necessarily want to give money in that way. It feels somewhat debased. Yeah, it's a little weird, slightly weird. The idea of getting ambush stripped on is hilarious to me still. Ambush stripped on? I have no idea what that is, Copter Force. Jacqueline Thomas, if you want to stare at women's body parts, wouldn't internet be more fun rather than doing it in a public group setting? Jacqueline Thompson, I think this is kind of a guy thing though. Like, not a guy thing. I think it's, what I mean is I've heard women say that women's strip clubs are worse than men's strip clubs. Like, there's certain things that, in the same way that Republicans can pass a tax, or that Democrats can pass like NAFTA. It's like, well, Bill Clinton is doing this, so it can't be that bad. Same thing with strip clubs. Men have a certain perspective, or there's a certain perspective of men. So men at a strip club have certain rules and regulations, and for the most part, those things are strictly enforced. The other way around doesn't seem to be true. Like, so the woman would be grabbing on the guy, the guy would be like pretend humping her and all this other stuff. One of the shows, the guy, this older woman, turned her around, starts humping on the woman, and you're like, what the fuck is going on here? If that was my mom, I'd be waiting out there beat the shit out of you for doing some shit like that. Yeah, the women's strip clubs are intense. I've seen those, and I was blown away by that. I was blown away by that. Yeah, but I've heard those are rough. And again, HBO, I don't think it was G-String Divas, it was a different one, where one of the women, it was a very large woman. She was either engaged to one of the dancers, and she was kind of making this point like, yeah, he's dancing with all these women, but he's coming home with me. And you're showing scenes from his performance where he's like going in on some of the women there. And you're like, oh my God. Oh my God. Robert Pouquet, I heard women are worse audience than men. Yes, agreed. Yeah, it is. Like male strippers say they get fondled all the time. Yes, they were like grabbed on and whatnot. Yeah. Jenna Land, in societies where women's bodies aren't objectified, are hidden away, no one cares or stares. See, I would say it's the opposite, Jalen. Like in Howard Zinn's in his book, he talks about this pre-Columbus period where people come to the shores of the society and women are walking around nude and everything else. For the most part, men are just, well, she's nude. Those are breasts. That's a vagina. Let's keep it moving. Half of us got one. Like there was no there to it. It's almost like the hiding of it keeps it away or hides it away in this way, making it to where it's inaccessible, and because it's inaccessible, somebody wants it. I don't know. Germans stare regardless. That's awkward. Well, I guess now that Cenk got fired from Justice Democrats, there's always stripping. Are you saying Cenk is going to become a stripper? We made women's bodies primarily breasts, but it's a novelty. Generally, yes, agreed. Sex sales, it became something to sell, which got intertangled with money in this way and became somewhat of a capitalistic thing. Yeah, agreed. I absolutely agree. All right, guys. This has gone ridiculously long. Most recent comments, anyway. Free the nipple. Yes, agreed. There's no reason why women shouldn't be able to walk around with no shirt on. Zero. If men can walk around with no shirt on, women should be able to do the exact same thing. I don't understand. It's like, oh my God, she has a breast. She has breasts. Can't show those. You can't show those. It's like, why not? Well, it's like, what do you think it's gonna do? It's like, what do you? It's like, I'm terrified of that breast. You can't show it in public. It's too powerful. It's too potent. Yeah, free the nipple, man. Free the nipple. No, don't free the testicles. Those aren't the same. Those are different. Let's stay with free the nipple. let's stay with free the nipple. Leave testicles in their devices. We're not there yet, man. We're not there yet. We're not. One thing at a time. One thing at a time. Yeah, that might get a lot ugly. Yeah. One thing at a time. Men are not built for beauty, man. It's purely utilitarian. Picking up sticks and bricks and whatnot, fighting off baboons and zebras. It's not an elegant thing. Genial Waters, I've read millennials are losing interest in boobs and butts, probably because of porn. Like, seriously, probably because of porn. Like, they're inundated with it. Anytime you want, anything that you want. It's like, I want a redhead that's 30 pounds overweight, that's a little person, that's somewhat Russian, but slightly black. And you'd find that video. Like, it's like at that point, it's like, shit, man. Yeah. Chehi had the temperament of a dad. Not much gets him fired up or outraged. You're talking about me? I don't understand why people think that I'm calm. Like, I don't understand that, man. My wife, we were talking to somebody, and she was like, yeah, your husband is so calm. It's like, why do you guys believe that? You can just walk around with a wadded up paper bag between your legs if you want a similar effect. What? What? You could walk around with a paper bag waddled up between your legs. Like you have 5 kids. I have 0 kids. I don't want kids. because you have the patience to analyze everything. That's what I don't know. No, you guys are mistaking this kind of third-person distance where I'm somewhat apathetic towards this stuff. Like how can I say this? I have this massive amount of empathy associated for these things outside of myself, but I try to, for this position, for what I do, I try to be honest about it. Like I try to give this thing of, okay, what's the other perspective of this situation? And knowing full well that it's very possible that I could be wrong in my perspective, meaning it's difficult to come down extraordinarily hard on one side or the other. Sometimes I do, where I'm like, okay, I definitively am on the side of this particular thing. But oftentimes I'm stuck with this thing of context. I'm stuck with this thing of context. Tom Cross, calm rage. Nah, I flipped out. War flips me out. Like unfair, like just gross unfairness, gross inequities. Particularly when you're talking about people being murdered. Oh man, I'm pissed. Yeah, it just depends on what it is. He ends the video and throws darts at my picture. No, Bob, I do not. I do not. Why does Santa hate poor kids? Santa's an asshole. Greener Thumb, great work on this channel. Glad you keep popping up in my feed. Always love to see more black progressive voices online. Keep it up, brother. Oh, thank you, Greener Thumbs. I appreciate it. I appreciate it. Not notice here too. I did a search for Cenk Resigns and found this. So let me put, I think I have two videos in the bottom. Yeah, I have The Hill and I have, I played this one too. Daily Caller or Daily Wire. I gotta be honest, I hesitate to use right-wing websites on this stuff because they have a dog in the hunt, and I hate this thing of them being massively unfair. It's like, what's the world you want? What's the world you want? And do you get that world by trying to stick a shiv in everybody who's not on your particular side? Not to mention, I disagree with what the right wing goes for. That's all. I find it jumps the shark from being bad to immoral to me, and so it becomes somewhat, yeah. And it's not everybody. It's not every right winger. You have some people who are on that who are just this kind of false consciousness where they don't understand that they're being taken advantage of, and they buy into the system the way the system is. Yeah. I just subbed here last week. I like hearing the empathetic people who try to understand others and change their opinion with reason and logic. Stacy, oh, thank you. Thank you. You call them children, kids. Oh, kids, yeah. War on Christmas equals questioning capitalism. You know what? That's... I'll end it on this one. One of the most awesome-ass things, Jamal, what happened to assume the position? Nothing happened to assume the position. Oh, I forgot about that. Shit. I love that. I used to love that segment. I forgot about it. Yeah, I forgot about it. You know, the funny part is I had a completely different show. I was going to do a 420 this evening, and then this came up. Hillary paid $26,000 for several really hot porn stars. This needs to be exposed. What? Even if she did, I gotta be honest, I don't care. We're too uptight about sex. We're far too uptight about sex. We're so easy with violence, but we're far, far, far too uptight about sex. Yes, free the nipple. I agree. Free the nipple. Women should be able to walk around bare-chested in the same way men should be able to walk around bare-chested. And it shouldn't be this wink of an eye or anything else. I don't understand it. It's like you could see tits every day for the rest of your life if you wanted to online. Literally, it's anything that you want. It's like, I would like a mistress that's 6'5", German, with somewhat of a Russian accent, but looks Chinese. And it would be there. Some woman scowling and screaming at you. Yeah, man, you can... I don't understand the uptightness, that's all. I don't understand uptightness. I've seen people flip out when women are breastfeeding. It's like, are you shitting me? Why? we're not separate from nature. We're not separate from nature. We're not separate and distinct things. Agreed about being far too uptight about sex in our bodies. We need to learn from bondos. We're too much like chimps, male-dominated and violent. Agreed, Jacqueline. Agreed. We need, but people often like to say it's like, well, we need more women empowered and stuff like that. But oftentimes those women take on the same mold of the men. So one of the things I liked about, oh God, this is going to be a massive detour. One of the things I liked about Wonder Woman, guess we've gone to comic books. One of the things that I liked about Wonder Woman, the thing I loved about that movie, was Wonder Woman, regardless of being strong, regardless of being able to kick ass and everything else, she was still fundamentally a woman. She was still empathetic, she was still compassionate, she was still kind. Her ability to kick ass and take names in no way hampered or got rid of this empathetic aspect of who she was as a person. Like, she didn't become a hard ass purely in order to kind of play in this particular sport. She retained her woman, her femininity in this. I love that. I love it. Totally love that. Free the nipple. Get it trending. Free the nipple. Free the nipple. Free the nipple. Wonder Woman was a really good movie, and she's my favorite superhero. Really? Your favorite? There's this the most sexually abusive video in the history of videos, or at the very least in the history of superhero comic books. In the Justice League movies, Superman, Wonder Woman headbutts Superman, and Superman floats up and just like bashes her, like headbutts her back and knocks her into the ground. And he was like, oh my God, Superman just beat up a woman. Superman just beat the shit out of a woman. Like, it was just funny. It was mostly funny. What is femininity, though? The quality of being a womanist. That's why I take it as womanist. Oh, bonobos female don't rule their society by using sex to control males. Complete opposite of chimps and humans. What are those things called? Those chastity belts? It's like they have a society with men in chastity belts. Just walking around having their balls in a jar. Slightly awkward. It's like, please, miss, may I may I be let loose to play? Girl got it. Yeah, that's her name. God, something to that effect. Yeah. She said some inflammatory things online. Nah, women use sex to control men for sure in human society. Brian Tan, no, they do to some degree. I mean, yeah, to some degree. Do you remember there's some of the old literature going back to the Revolutionary period, where I want to say German literature, but I could be wrong. But in the literature, they have this thing where they're talking about being wild and violent, and it's like, keep women away from us. And it's such a weird thing. Like, it's like they're going into this thing talking about reveling in violence and harm and, this way of the warrior and not taking any shit off anybody and this uber masculinity. I mean, this type of literature. But there's this weird part in it where they explicitly say, keep your women away. And I don't know if it's because sex controls the society, but they do have a calming down effect to some degree. It's like calm the fuck down. So yeah, don't think this man wants a bonodo female. You never know, Don. Never know, Bob. Might do wonders for you. Bob walking around with his balls in a jar. That chastity belt. You might like it, Bob. You might like it. Not true, Colin. Just how men in power represents women is manipulating via sex. Oh, I see what you mean, Tom Cross. You're making this point that's... Can we take a position for the moment that both of those things can be true? Like, you do have some situations where guys try to put this perspective out of women behave in a particular way, but you also have... It goes both ways, man. It goes both ways. Bonodo males get laid all the time. Jacqueline Thomason. Well, you can't get laid all the time if they're controlling you through sex. You can't have it both ways. I mean, at some point you have to... That's somewhat of a chastity belt in order to actually build up that that, what's the word we're looking for? Build up the reserve currency, if that's what we're looking for. Yeah, at some point you have to withhold it if you're gonna have to use it as a weapon. Totally goes both ways. Gender roles are lame. Yeah, like, lame is a little strong. I don't fully understand the comment. Like, I think I know what you're getting at. You're trying to say this thing of these hard and fixed identities of this is a guy, this is a woman, you must act this. Yeah, I agree with that one. That's, in many respects, cultural. Bonobo is a primate. No, Jacqueline, I know, but we're making this comparison in regards to human societies, what that would look like in human society. At least that's the way I took it. Kind of making this point that I think Bob would enjoy it. Bestiality is only legal in California. Bestiality is legal in California. That's not fair to the animal. How is that fair to the animal? It's like you're fucking a horse. And does a horse get the opportunity to say no? If the horse doesn't get the opportunity to say no, that's rape. That's rape. Can't go around fucking horses, Bob. Chauncey Stewart, and I'm not saying you are, but I'm just saying people can't do that in California. That's fucked up. They've moved too far to the left. If that's the case. Some genders are on average better at certain roles. That part I agree with. To a certain degree I agree with. But even still, I don't think you can have those hard fixed things. Jacqueline Thompson. Females control males because when males are laid all the time, their testosterone is low. Is that true? I don't know if that's true. Oh man, I'm gonna have to fact check that. I need to fact check that. Testosterone is low when they're getting laid. Yeah. I'm trying to stay away from the sheep, Bob. I'm going with the horse. I'm skeptical, Jacqueline. You need to give me a link. I need a link. Yeah, I'm not sure that's true. I'm not sure that's true either, Brom. I love this. All the men are like, yeah, man, I don't think that's true. I don't think that's true. All the women are like, yes, that's true. That's exactly true. Oh, that doesn't sound right. That don't sound right. That's hilarious. That's hilarious. I have to be honest. I would imagine that you would control men more if you withhold it. Like, it just sounds weird the other way around. If you don't do that, you're not going to get X. Particularly if you're like, you wait a week. You wait 2 weeks. Yeah. How's that comment? That is sexist as jinx, though. What do you mean? Which one? What's the comment? You mean about the testosterone thing? It's either true or not. It's not sexist or otherwise. Cut off your girlfriend and watch her go insane when she gets horny. Chauncey Stewart. And watch her go insane when she gets horny. I think that goes both ways. That's not a human being thing. Like, where the person wants to hook up. Here's the catch. If one party in the relationship was looking at it, say for instance you guys are playing some kind of BDSM stuff. And in playing this kind of BDSM role, you take this position of being some kind of dom and you say, look, I'm not letting you get your rocks off for whatever reason. I don't know, whatever the gamesmanship is. It seems like you would have more control in this case, particularly if the guy is in some kind of, what is those things called? Those it's not a Chelsea belt. It's like a cage or something where you have a key to it. But there's a difference in those though. I guess one is playing around with the BDSM thing. The other one is just kind of their society itself. So I don't know. We were talking about the bonobos. Yeah, we were. Generally, we were. Google says sex causes high testosterone. Brian Tan. Fact check. Men will go elsewhere for sex. Tom Cross. That's the catch, right? That is the catch. That is the catch. At a certain point, when men just say, okay, fuck this. I'm done. I'm done. Yeah, it's like I'm done. Okay, I'm exhausted. I need to get some sleep. See you guys again. My girlfriend does not dare cut me off anymore. Chauncey Stewart, she does not dare cut you off. Wow, that's intense. She does not dare. She does not dare. Studies even said with the anticipation of sex can cause high testosterone. Yeah, that stat sounded a little fishy to me. I don't know. I don't understand why women were so on board with that one. The women on the chat were like, yes, that's true. Yes, that's true. The men were like, wait a minute. Oh, this don't sound right. This don't sound right. I have heard no sex before football game. Yes, I have heard that. But the people say all sorts of odd stuff. You know, who knows? There would be like 30 apps for hookups. Dudes would be like, I'm going to the store now. I'll be back in 20 minutes. Hormones are produced in men's bodies every 20 seconds. We're talking about bonobos. I know, Jenny Lynn. I know. We were trying to graft that on human beings, and it became this kind of thing about sex. I know. We're conflating things. We're conflating it. I know. Men use sex to control women by referring to women who have casual sex as whores. Yes, and that's wrong. Yeah. Look, you guys at this point know me. I think all drugs should be legal, and I think people should be more casual in the way they go about their sexual affairs. So, this idea of calling somebody a whore is fucking insane to me. You're a human being. Have fun. Who you have sex with is a huge status symbol in society. Sometimes. I mean, the people who know you don't really care. That's male insecurity. Yes. Agreed. Not to mention it's a double standard. Men can have all the sex they want, and for the most part, they just looked at it as, oh, that's my boy. Or, you know, he's a player, or he's something else, or whatever. It's known that short-term abstinence of 3 weeks can slightly increase testosterone levels in healthy human subjects. And one interesting study shows a significant 145% spike in testosterone at the 7th day. Jesus Christ. Have fun. Herpes for everyone. Yeah. Jenks Resign for Justice. Democrats sound like a concession. Yeah, he resigned. Look, let's be honest. The stuff that came out was, for the most part, stuff that men do anyway. And men have those conversations. It is a little weird to put that out in a blog post. It's a little weird to put it out in a blog post. Also, the guy who talked to Dave Caller's thing about the whores in training is, I gotta be honest, man, that's a tough one to get down. Like, that's hard to even read. The other one of Jenks talking about he's running around feeling breasts, he's wasted and feeling tits. That sounds like grandbatter pussy to me. Look, their reason for leaving, whether Cenk looked at this and saw this as being a legit reason to take him down or not, was besides the point. They weren't going to do anything to kneecap Justice Democrats. They felt that it was better to leave than to do anything that would adversely affect their chances in the election. So, at this point, it's easy to just back away and say, hey, you're right. This looks a little difficult to read. I'm completely sorry. Give this kind of full-throated apology and get out of Dodge. You need to have 100% of bullshit stories to follow. That's funny. I cannot masturbate for less than half a day personally. That's just me, though. Oh, okay. Fair enough. Think Catalonia will go forward with succession. Oh, man. I have no idea. So, I've done videos on that. I don't know. Like, so they've just reelected the secessionist party. That party has just been reelected to the process. And so they've been cracking heads with the voting and everything else, but that, for all intents and purposes, is the voting public saying, yes, we're on their side. We want this. Whether or not Spain is going to give up Catalonia or not is a whole second thing. That is a whole second thing. It would be like if the United States, if Texas just said, you know what, I'm done. Or if Virginia just said, I'm done. Would the United States look at Virginia and say, yeah, whatever, get back in line? Like, what would be the chances that the United States would let Virginia become a state unto itself? It's like, you know, so, I don't know. I think it's going to be a fuckfest. I'll put it that way. I do think that. I guess anyone can find one study to support an argument. Yeah. There's always one. All right, guys. I am going to kill this. I mean, it's been 3 hours. Called a Christmas special of sorts. I'm probably going to be with fam for tomorrow and the next few days. So, you guys have a merry fucking Christmas. And I will probably see you guys back either, let's be honest, it's probably going to be tomorrow. But if it's not tomorrow, it's probably going to be Monday or Tuesday. So, latest video ever? No, it's not. Full said no, it's not. I had a video with Joe Firestone. Firestone is a PhD economist. Not economist, I'm sorry. PhD in political science. The guy is a wealth of knowledge, and it's fucking awesome to talk to. That thing went for like 4 hours. Twice. It went 4 hours twice. His wife comes in and is like, all right, time to cut this shit off. Time to cut this off. Yeah. So, yeah, guys. Merry Christmas, guys. For everybody who gave and donated, I absolutely appreciate it. For everybody who gives on Patreon, I absolutely appreciate it. This year, this has been an amazing year. And if I would have thought to myself of like what I've been doing a YouTube channel even a year before, it would have never occurred to me. Like, never occurred to me. Never in a million years would I have thought I will be doing a YouTube channel. So I absolutely appreciate this. I absolutely appreciate the attention. I appreciate the likes. I appreciate the shares. I appreciate you guys just even showing up in the first place. So, seeing as I started with like 1 subscriber. It's like my mom was like, boo, I saw your show, it was good. So no, guys, I appreciate it, man. Yeah, happy Hanukkah, Merry Christmas, free the nipple, etc, etc, etc. So, I love your channel, just turned into the stream the first time today. Aw, thank you, Alex. I appreciate it, guys. Watch out for them terror attacks. Thomas Cross, what terror attacks? What software do you use to put the photo in the background? So I use OBX. It's a free software called OBS that allows you to overlay pictures and everything else. It's just put in OBS. Yep, just put in OBS. It'll come up. It's relatively straightforward to use. Venus Project is amazing, Jenny. I'm glad you know about that. The project is amazing. Cashless society. It killed me when Jack Fresco died. And no, it didn't kill me. That's too strong. But I really like the guy. He can be dogmatic. He can be intense. But yeah, I like the guy. Free the nut. Free the nut. Jamal, you need to get that shit sponsored. Sponsored by who? Yeah, Fresco died. Fresco died this year, actually. He died this year. Yeah, that's a fail. That's a fail. The contact sport, the guy who had the sex change and then went into the sport, and yeah, that's a fail. That's a fail. Look, I understand you can have sex changed and you're in the situation of wanting people to accept you as a female. And fair enough. From the standpoint of, I respect you being who you want to be and all this good stuff. Fair enough. All things being equal, I don't necessarily care one way or the other. Fair enough. But there's a certain thing about public safety, and somebody else's public safety doesn't trump what you want to be called, and doesn't necessarily trump this idea of the features that are associated with a guy. So a woman is fighting a guy who's a transsexual and who's had sex change. The bone structure, the body structure, you can look at the fucking picture, and the body structure is still that of a guy. And it's like this match between these two is massively out of proportion. She fucking killed that woman. I mean, she beat the shit out of that woman. And then you're looking at this like, whoa, this should not have been allowed to go forward. This should not have been allowed to go forward. Yeah, his bone structure is natural. I would say, look at the training footage. Look at the training footage. And look at the fight. And there is no way. There's no way you can look at that and say that's a fair fight. Or that should have ever been allowed. No way. No fucking way. Questionable women in some of those track events. There was one of those Olympics where I think China was like doping or something. And it was these huge hulking females. It was like, oh my god, that's a woman? It's like, holy shit. They were doping. They were essentially on steroids and all this other stuff. They were fucking superhuman. I can imagine anyone refusing to fight on those grounds, though. That's the problem. She should have refused to fight. In fact, she shouldn't have had to refuse to fight. They should have told them no. They should have said no. They should have said, we're not allowing this fight to go through. whatever you want to consider yourself, fair enough. I respect whatever you want to be called. That's not a big deal to me. You know, the same way that African Americans was like, you know, we don't like being called colored. We prefer to black or African American, etc., etc. Those things change. How your society perceives these things change. Those things are shifting moods. It doesn't necessarily kill me to say, okay, this person wants to perceive themselves as a female. They don't necessarily feel themselves as a guy. So fair enough. But there are limits. One of those limits is if you have the physical physique of a guy and you are actually fighting someone who was naturally born a woman, has been a woman her entire life. Yes, that's where I draw the line. That's where, you know, you essentially say, yeah, as an organization, we're going to put a stop to this because we're not going to allow you to just beat the shit out this woman. So, yeah. Yeah. Fat and body strength is different. Yeah, I know. I mean, you know, muscle, fat, water, constituents of weight. Men's torso are usually a bit larger, equals muscle mass, nothing personal. Many women are stronger than many men. Not in that fight. Not in that fight. We're not talking about this kind of conceptual, you know, this kind of mythic thing in some kind of esoteric universe. We're talking about a fight that took place. And we're talking about a fight where one fighter had the bone structure of a man and the physique of a guy and beats the shit out of a woman. That's what we're talking about. This is very specific. This is something where you can look at, you can see the fight yourself. Pummeled that woman. Agree with Jamal on that one. Yeah, pummeled her. Absolutely pummeled her. Generally, and women have stronger legs. Men typically have stronger upper body. Yes, agreed. Yeah, no, generally you're right. No, yeah, it was no contest. It wasn't a contest. You don't put Andre the Giant against a woman? Yeah, not typically. No. He had sex change that was not disclosed until after 5 pro fights. Are you serious? He should have been brought up on charges. Honestly, he should have been brought up on charges. It's like somebody having some kind of venereal disease, and they're like, well, I don't accept that this particular venereal disease exists. It's not about what you accept, dude. It's about the public safety risk. You're a public hazard if you're going to get into the ring and you're going to fight other women. That's a problem. That's a problem. Not to mention there's something sadistic about that. It's if you want to be a fighter, it's like if you're going to, there's certain things that you do where you give up other things. Like, you know, a blind person can't necessarily get to have a wheel of a car and saying, you know, I'm being disenfranchised because I can't drive. Well, I understand you're being disenfranchised because you can't drive, but ultimately the public safety of the people on the road outweigh your want to get behind the wheel and just bang shit up. It's the same thing. Same thing. Like California letting people with HIV donate blood. That's, yeah, agreed. Yeah, that's a little weird, man. That's a little weird. Yeah. Even, I mean, because come on. Even if they say, well, look, we can weed this out and all this other stuff. That's a little shaky. That's a little shaky. Yeah. All right, so I'm going to kill this because we're going to end up in a whole nother conversation. X Factor 541. Good night. This old man has logs to saw. Yeah. Jamal is trying to get people killed, you know. Blind person can't buy it. Drive in Texas, I guess. Yeah, I'm being somewhat hateful in my preventing blind people from driving and blind people from using guns in Texas and, you know, those type of things. So, yeah. Eating humans, right? We've had that conversation about cannibalism too. Alright guys, I'm going to kill this. Like I said guys, thank you for showing up. I'm glad you guys were here. Yeah. Thanks for showing up guys. And look, this stream has been like almost like 100 the entire time. So you guys have stayed with me the entire time. So I appreciate it. You guys have a Merry fucking Christmas. And I will see you probably after the Christmas holiday. Alright guys.